Chapter 841, Side Effect. Meanwhile, Yi Zan had returned, and she put down a tray with a bowl of hot porridge on the stone table in the courtyard as she said with a light smile, "Big brother Duan, you haven't eaten for so long, so you'll surely be unable to digest rice, so I made some millet porridge for you." "Thank you." Duan Lingtian's appetite was greatly aroused as he smelt the fragrance of the porridge, and after he sat down before the table, he started drinking the porridge. The taste of the porridge was extremely nice and was obviously cooked attentively. "Little Zan, your culinary skill isn't bad, whoever marries you in the future will surely enjoy a happy life." Duan Lingtian smiled. But in next to no time, Duan Lingtian noticed that his joke caused a wisp of a bitter smile to appear on the corners of Yi Zan's mouth when she heard it. "Little Zan, what's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Duan Lingtian was stunned. "No." Yi Zan shook her head and squeezed out a trace of a smile on her face, and she diverted the topic. "Right, big brother Duan, why were you at the bed of reeds outside Drift Cloud Town?" Duan Lingtian couldn't help but laugh bitterly when he heard Yi Zan. "I don't know either." "You don't know?" Yi Zan was stunned, and she was able to discern that Duan Lingtian didn't seem to be lying. But exactly what had a person experienced to sleep for an entire 18 days, yet not show the slightest trace of injury or illness? "Yes." Duan Lingtian nodded, and then he seemed to have thought of something and asked. "Little Zan, you said this is the Drift Cloud Sect's Yi clan. I wonder if you know where the Skywolf Fort is?" "Skywolf Fort?" Yi Zan couldn't help but be shocked when she heard this. "Big brother Duan, are you speaking about one of the 4 great powers in the southern area of the northern desert, Skywolf Fort?" "One of the 4 great powers in the southern area of the northern desert?" Duan Lingtian was stunned, and then he asked curiously. "The 4 great powers you mentioned wouldn't be the Skywolf Fort, Blade Sect, Empyrean Temple, and Emotion Severing Sect, right?" "Exactly." Yi Zan nodded, and then she asked. "Big brother Duan, why did you ask about the Skywolf Fort?" "The Skywolf Fort is situated at the southern area of the northern desert, and it's at the southernmost part. It's slightly far from where we are." "Where are we?" A bad premonition arose in Duan Lingtian's heart. "Drift Cloud Town is situated at the east of the northern desert," said Yi Zan. "The eastern area of the northern desert?" Duan Lingtian was stunned, and then he recovered from his shock and couldn't help but laugh bitterly as he felt shock in his heart. "How did I come to the eastern area of the northern desert? There's probably an extremely far distance between this place to the southern area of the northern desert, right? With my current strength, if I depart alone to head towards the southern area of the northern desert and head to the Blade Sect, I'll surely be unable to avoid encountering dangers along the way. It's extremely risky to leave alone." As he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian felt rather helpless. "Looks like I have to think of another way if I want to head to the Blade Sect." Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. "Young miss." Right at this moment, a voice sounded out from outside the courtyard. "The Patriarch heard that the young master you rescued has awoken, and he asked you to bring the young master over to see him." "What does father want to do?" Yi Zan frowned and seemed to be slightly unwilling. "Little Zan, I never imagined that you're the daughter of the Yi clan's patriarch. Now that I speak of it, I've already imposed on your Yi clan for a period of time, so take me to see Patriarch Yi." Duan Lingtian smiled. Since Duan Lingtian said this, Yi Zan naturally didn't have any reason to refuse, and she called out to Duan Lingtian and headed towards the Yi clan's audience hall. In the Yi clan's audience hall, the Yi clan's patriarch, Yi Ting, sat at the head seat. Yi Ting was around the age of 50, his appearance was ordinary, yet a dignified expression was emitted from between his brows, and he possessed the dignity of someone in a high position. On a seat right below the head seat sat a middle-aged man around the age of 40+. The outline of the middle-aged man's face was slightly similar to Yi Ting, yet a trace of ruthlessness and gloominess was held between his brows. Obviously, he was no ordinary person. This person was the 3rd elder of the Yi clan, Yi Wei, and he was the younger brother of Yi Ting that only shared the same father with him. "Big brother, it's not that I want to speak about little Zan like this, but little Zan, an untouched virgin, has brought a man into her own courtyard. If this matter is spread to the Chen clan, would they be willing to take it?" Yi Wei spoke with a low voice. "Alas," Yi Ting sighed, "that little girl little Zan is just like her mother, kind-hearted and pure. Her actions this time do indeed lack consideration slightly. But I heard that person lay asleep on the bed for 18 days and only awoke today, so there ought to be nothing between him and little Zan. Moreover, I believe little Zan, she wouldn't do something she shouldn't." Yi Ting added. I'm willing to believe little Zan as well, but once this matter is spread out, how would outsiders look upon it? At that time, wouldn't the Chen clan surely destroy our Yi clan? As Yi Wei finished speaking, his face sank. So, big brother, once little Zan brings that kid over, I'll ask him to FCK off, and you must not help him. Alas, I know what to do. But he was brought back by little Zan after all, so you have to give little Zan some face no matter what. Yi Ting sighed. I understand. Yi Wei nodded. Duan Lingtian followed behind Yi Zan to head all the way through the Yi clan estate to finally arrive at the audience hall. When he walked into the audience hall, Duan Lingtian noticed two gazes had locked onto him in the first possible moment, and once of the gazes were still fine as it was rather polite, whereas the other gaze wasn't only fierce, it was unbridled. Duan Lingtian's face sank slightly, and then he raised his head to fearlessly meet the gaze of owner of the second gaze, Yi Wei, who sat at the seat beneath the head seat. His spiritual force swept out and Duan Lingtian detected in the first possible moment that this person's cultivation was at the first level of the void interpretation stage. Father. After she walked into the audience hall, Yi Zan bowed towards Yi Ting before glancing indifferently at Yi Wei. Second uncle. HMPH. Yi Wei grunted coldly, and this cold grunted was directed to both Duan Lingtian and Yi Zan. Little Zan, you're becoming more and more rude now, I originally didn't know why. But now it would seem like there's something wrong with the people you're acquainted with. Learning the bad and not the good isn't a good habit. Once you go to the Chen clan in the future, then wouldn't the Yi clan ridicule our Yi clan for having no discipline? Yi Wei glanced coldly at Duan Lingtian, and then he looked at Yi Zan and spoke sarcastically. Second uncle. Yi Zan's expression went slightly grim as she looked at Yi Wei and said with a low voice, my friend has probably not offended you, right? On what basis are you talking bad about him? Besides that, I've already said that I won't marry that good-for-nothing young man from the Chen clan. If you want someone to get married, then you go marry him. Yi Wei was angered to the point his expression went livid, and then he looked at Yi Ting. Big brother, look, this is your good daughter. Little Zan. Yi Ting's brows frowned as he berated. How can you speak like that to your second uncle? Second uncle. Yi Zan laughed, and she laughed with a mocking expression. I took him as my second uncle, yet does he take me as his niece? For the sake of flattering the Chen clan, for the sake of forming a relationship with them, and for the sake of his own benefit, he secretly sold me off. I don't have a second uncle like him. As she finished speaking, Yi Zan had a resolute expression. Yi Zan's hysteric words didn't just stun Yi Ting and Yi Wei, it even stunned Duan Lingtian. Was this still the extremely gentle little Zan? But Duan Lingtian was roughly able to understand the conflict between Yi Zan and her second uncle through her words. No wonder little Zan's face was slightly off when I said whoever marries her would enjoy a happy life, so it turns out that she had a marriage agreement secretly set by her second uncle, and she's being forced to marry a good-for-nothing young man. Duan Lingtian had always possessed meticulous thoughts, and he easily guessed the sequence of events. Big brother, looks like little Zan has great complaints towards me. I really want to ask you to judge this matter. Did I do this for the sake of overall situation of the clan or not? The union by marriage with the Chen clan is only beneficial to our Yi clan and isn't harmful. Yi Wei looked at Yi Ting and spoke slowly. Little Zan, right when Yi Ting wanted to berate Yi Zan again, Duan Lingtian took a few steps forward to stand before Yi Zan, and he looked at Yi Ting before interrupting him. Duan Lingtian greets Patriarch Yi. HMPH. The nearby Yi Wei grunted coldly and muttered. Don't you know that interrupting is an extremely rude thing? How does little Zan know such trash? Even though Yi Wei didn't say this to Duan Lingtian, yet he was obviously speaking about Duan Lingtian. Trash. Duan Lingtian's face sank slightly as killing intent flashed within his eyes when he heard this. At the same time, Duan Lingtian felt slightly irritable, the origin energy in his body showed signs of becoming slightly restless, and the thought of killing Yi Wei arose in his heart for no reason or rhyme. Moreover, this sort of though grew stronger and stronger, and it seemed to be ceaselessly urging Duan Lingtian and wanting to control his feelings. For a time, Duan Lingtian was terrified to the point of breaking out in cold sweat. After taking a deep breath, his restless feelings eased up, and he was shocked in his heart. When did I become so easily enraged? I feel as if my feelings are slightly out of my control. Looks like that dream was really true. My feelings ought to have been affected by the Devilseal tablet, and it left a side effect behind. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but recall that the him he saw in the dream only had bloodthirsty and violent feelings, and it had completely suppressed his normal feelings. So he was practically able to determine that it was a side effect left behind after the Devilseal tablet bestowed formidable strength to kill everyone to him. I originally thought that since I have the Devilseal tablet, it would be able to give me strength at any time when I encounter dangers in the future, and I would be able to rely on the energy it bestows upon me to clear all obstacles. But now it would seem like it isn't so simple. At the same time that the Devilseal tablet assists me, it also left behind a heavy injury and flaw in my soul, causing my feelings to be out of my control. Perhaps if the incident in the dream occurs once more, my feelings would be even more out of my control, and in the end, even I myself would be utterly unable to control it, causing me to become a true devil. When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian felt a slight lingering fear in his heart. Sure enough, one had to pay the price when utilizing a strength that didn't belong to oneself. Nothing comes free in the world. 841 Chapter 842, Overestimation of Ability. The Devilseal tablet is too terrifying. If it's possible, then I must try my best to not to utilize the energy contained within it in the future. Duan Lingtian decided in his heart. After returning to his senses, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but laugh lightly when he recalled what Yi Zan's second uncle, Yi Wei, muttered earlier. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian looked at Yi Zan, who was angered to the point of seeming like a little tiger and intended to launch a verbal attack at Yi Wei. Little Zan, if someone intends to take the happiness of their loved ones as a trifling matter for the sake of their own personal benefit, then do you think that person is worse than an animal? Of course. The beautiful face of Yi Zan, who originally wanted to flare up when she heard Yi Hui's words, was instantly suffused with a smile when she heard Duan Lingtian. At the same time, she mischievously gave Duan Lingtian a thumbs up in secret. Enough. Finally, Yi Ting couldn't look on any longer. Stop, all of you. You're the young man Little Zan rescued, right? Yi Ting looked at Duan Lingtian and asked indifferently. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. You're fine now, right? Yi Ting asked. Yes. Duan Lingtian answered once more. Since you're fine, then take these 10 low-grade origin stones and go back to wherever you came from. Yi Ting spoke indifferently. At the same time, he raised his hand to casually toss out 10 low-grade origin stones directly beneath Duan Lingtian's feet. Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed. This seemed to be an act of humiliating him and trampling on his dignity, right? Father, what's the meaning of this? Yi Zan's beautiful face went grim when she saw this scene, and then she said angrily, Big brother Duan is my friend, and humiliating him is humiliating me. Quickly apologized to him. Yi Ting's face sank and was extremely unsightly when he saw his daughter standing up for an outsider. Asking him to apologize. Was that possible? PFF'd. Yi Wei laughed with ridicule, and then he glanced coldly and indifferently at Duan Lingtian and said, Big brother, I think this kid thinks it's too little. 10 low-grade origin stones isn't little. Yi Ting was indifferent and said, Our Yi clan doesn't owe him anything, it's he who owes our Yi clan. Patriarch Yi, what you said is wrong. Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed as he said indifferently, Even if I owe someone something, I owe Little Zan. What does it have to do with your Yi clan? Little Zan is a member of our Yi clan. Since you owe Little Zan, you naturally owe our Yi clan. Yi Ting glanced at Duan Lingtian with contempt as he laughed coldly. Ha 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 ha. Duan Lingtian instantly started laughing loudly when he heard this, and his laughter was unbridled and unrestrained as it filled the entire Yi clan audience hall. What are you laughing at? Yi Ting said with a low voice, Could it be that I'm wrong? Patriarch Yi, you still know that Little Zan is a member of your Yi clan. You didn't discuss her marriage with her before privately agreeing to it with another. Do you think you took Little Zan to be a member of the Yi clan in this matter? After he restrained his laughter, Duan Lingtian sneered. Perhaps, in your eyes, Little Zan is only a tool in this matter, a tool for your Yi clan to become united to the Chen clan in marriage. As soon as Duan Lingtian said this, Yi Ting's expression became extremely unsightly. Yi Zan, who stood behind Duan Lingtian, was agitated to the point her delicate fists were clenched tightly as Duan Lingtian's words had spoken out the words in her heart, and it resonated with her. HMPH. Kid, it isn't your place to interfere in the things of our Yi clan. Yi Wei stood up from his seat as he glared angrily at Duan Lingtian and shouted in a grim voice. What? You just said that I owe your Yi clan a favor, yet now you're busy drawing a line between us. Duan Lingtian smiled extremely brightly and brilliantly. Yi Ting stood up from his seat as the origin energy on his body flickered like flames, and he shouted out coldly as his gaze that was like a blade shot towards Duan Lingtian. Our Yi clan doesn't welcome you, FCK off. Father, what are you doing? Big brother Duan is my friend. If you want him to leave, I'll leave with him. Let me see how you explain this to the Chen clan. Yi Zan strode a step forward, and she who wasn't tall nor big stood before Duan Lingtian and opened up her hands to protect Duan Lingtian behind her as she was deeply afraid that Yi Ting would attack Duan Lingtian. You, little Zan, get out of the way. Yi Ting's expression was even more unsightly when he saw his daughter standing at the side of an outsider. Even though Yi Zan wasn't old, her character was extremely unyielding, and she disregarded Yi Ting. If you don't move away, then I won't consider you my daughter any longer. Under his extremely rage, Yi Ting roared with a deep voice. Yi Zan's expression instantly went pale as a sheet when she heard this, and she seemed to be slightly dejected as she muttered. Changed, everything has changed, that father that doted upon me in the past will never return. That father that promised mother before her death that he would surely let me live happily forever is gone. That father that would never shout at me is gone. Duan Lingtian sighed. Every family has its own problems, this was a fact. At this moment, he could feel Yi Zan's dejectedness, yet he didn't know how he should console her. But in his heart, he'd already made a decision. He would surely help this kind-hearted young woman get through this predicament. Little Zan, Yi Ting sighed when he heard Yi Zan's mutters. Actually, that Chen clan's young master isn't bad, even though he's usually a bit too profligate and undisciplined. His father has already said that he only wanted to enjoy a little amusement occasionally, and he will be sincerely good to you. Father, let me just ask you, do you believe his nonsense? Yi Zan sneered. So long as someone in our Drift Cloud town has a daughter that's pretty, which of those people haven't had their daughters ruined by him? If there aren't 100, there are at least 80 young women that have chosen to commit suicide after being violated by him, right? You want me to marry a profligate good-for-nothing like him? Father, you want to push me into a fiery pit of hell just for the sake of the assistance the Chen clan would be able to give the Yi clan after the marriage. Yi Zan's successive rhetorical questions caused Yi Ting to be speechless and not know how to answer her. Little Zan, you have to be sensible. You're a member of the Yi clan, so you naturally must think for the Yi clan. Sacrificing you will allow our Yi clan to move a step higher, and our Yi clan will never forget you. The nearby Yi Wei chipped in. No matter how high it stands, a clan that relied on sacrificing women to rise will be unable to change the inferiority in its bones. And it will fall down once again, sooner or later. Duan Lingtian spoke with disdain. In his lifetime, what he looked down upon the most was these people in powers that relied on women to seek benefit for themselves. Kid, you're courting death. Yi Wei was greatly enraged and couldn't restrain himself any longer, and he seemed to have transformed into a ferocious fierce beast and directly pounced towards Duan Lingtian. Bang! He slapped out with his palm, causing origin energy to skyrocket before fusing with material water concept, and it flashed directly towards Duan Lingtian's chest. A gale swept out from the palm causing the airflow in the sky to flash about along with it and transform into circle after circle of ripples that spread ceaselessly towards the surroundings. Big brother Duan, watch out! Yi Zan, who was immersed in her pain, inadvertently saw this scene, causing her face to go grim, and her eyes were filled with extreme rage towards her second uncle, Yi Wei. Yi Ting had the ability to stop Yi Wei yet didn't make any move and watched everything coldly from the sidelines. But in the next moment, he was unable to keep his composure any longer, and his pupils constricted instantly. Slap! An enormous sound resounded out. Duan Lingtian had casually pushed out with his palm to forcefully receive Yi Hui's strike, yet Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged, whereas Yi Hui's expression instantly flushed red. You overestimate your ability. There's not enmity between us, yet you want to kill me just because I spoke a few words I felt to be correct. Duan Lingtian's cold and indifferent gaze met Yi Hui's gaze, and he asked with a low voice. Yi Hui's mouth held a mouthful of blood, and he didn't spit it out because he was unwilling to show weakness before Duan Lingtian, so it was naturally impossible for him to reply. What's the point for a person like you to keep his cultivation? Duan Lingtian's voice became slightly chilly. Stay your hand. When he heard Duan Lingtian's words, Yi Ting, who felt something was amiss, realized what Duan Lingtian wanted to do, and his face went grim. Swoosh! Without the slightest hesitation, Yi Ting flew out like a ferocious tiger descending the mountain as he pounced towards Duan Lingtian. Yi Zan was stunned since early on when Duan Lingtian easily received Yi Hui's palm strike because she never imagined that Duan Lingtian would possess such a formidable strength. Her second uncle was a void interpretation stage expert. Even if it was in the entire Drift Cloud town, he could be considered to be in existence at the top. Before she could even recover from her shock, Yi Zan's face went pale. Because she saw her father had actually pounced towards Duan Lingtian, and she couldn't help but be worried for Duan Lingtian as her father's strength was even stronger than her second uncle. Bang! Yi Ting's speed was swift, yet Duan Lingtian's speed was swifter, and his other hand flashed out to fiercely descend onto Yi Hui's dantian under Yi Hui's fearful gaze. Instantly, Yi Hui's dantian was broken apart, and his vast origin energy leaked out entirely. Ah! The vital blood in Yi Hui's body gushed up when his cultivation was crippled, and he couldn't hold back the blood in his mouth and sprayed it out in large mouthfuls. You're courting death. Yi Ting had finally arrived, and he who had a spirit sword appear in his hand shouted out explosively as he struck out swiftly towards Duan Lingtian who had his back towards him. His sword struck straight towards Duan Lingtian's vital point with the intention of killing Duan Lingtian with a single blow and taking revenge for his younger brother who had his cultivation crippled. Swish! An ear-piercing sword howl entered into Duan Lingtian's ears in the blink of an eye, and it caused Duan Lingtian's brows to raise. Whirlwind! In the next moment, Duan Lingtian easily flashed off to avoid Yi Ting's sword strike, and he stood from afar as he looked coldly at Yi Ting. Yi Ting was a second-level void interpretation stage martial artist, and he similarly didn't take Yi Ting seriously. But when he thought about how Yi Ting was Little Zan's father, Duan Lingtian didn't make a move against Yi Ting, and it could be considered to be him giving Little Zan face as he was sincerely fond of this kind-hearted young woman. Big brother, avenge me. Avenge me. Yi Wei held his dantian as he sat on the ground, and he didn't see the speed Duan Lingtian had revealed earlier as he just howled in a low voice by himself. Avenge you. The corners of Yi Ting's mouth curled into a painful and bitter expression. How would he avenge his younger brother? The sword strike from before was his strongest strike, and his swiftest strike. Yet it was exactly a strike like that which was close at hand and about to hit when Duan Lingtian had easily avoided it. At that moment, what he felt was something only he understood clearly. Now, he could be sure of one thing. It was that Duan Lingtian's strength exceeded his imagination, and he was utterly not on the same level as Duan Lingtian. 842 Chapter 843, Breaking Off an Engagement. You, who exactly are you? Yi Ting looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a bitter smile. After he'd witnessed Duan Lingtian's strength, Yi Ting didn't dare put on airs as the patriarch of the Yi clan because he knew that before a true expert, the patriarch of the Yi clan like him was no different to an ant. If Duan Lingtian wanted to kill him, it would be extremely easy, and Duan Lingtian wouldn't be afraid just because he was the patriarch of the Yi clan. I'm Little Zan's friend, Duan Lingtian replied indifferently. Big brother, what are you wasting time talking to him for? Quickly kill him. After Yi Wei noticed that Yi Ting didn't take any action to deal with Duan Lingtian, his face went grim and shouted out with a grim voice. Kill, kill, kill. All you know is to kill. If he wants to kill me, then I'd have died a few times over. Yi Ting was already slightly perturbed now, and when he heard Yi Hui's words, he instantly berated with slight irritation. What? Yi Hui's face went pale when he heard Yi Ting, and he, who was already in extreme pain from his dantian being crippled, couldn't take a shock like this, causing him to pass out directly. Big brother Duan. Yi Zan completely recovered from her shock, and she realized that this violet-clothed young man she rescued possessed a strength that far surpassed her second uncle and father. In the blink of an eye, he'd crippled the dantian of her second uncle before easily avoiding her father's enraged strike at the critical moment. Such strength was something that even her grandfather, the former patriarch of the Yi clan, was probably far inferior to. Little Zan, don't worry, I'll help you deal with your problem. Duan Lingtian smiled to Yi Zan before giving her a reassuring glance. Yi Zan's heart felt warm, and then she looked at Yi Ting and a trace of pain flashed within her eyes. In the end, she said, Big brother Duan, can you let me father off? Silly girl. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. You wouldn't take me to be a devil that kills without batting an eyelid, right? Yi Zan couldn't help but smile when she heard Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto Yi Ting and he laughed coldly. Patriarch Yi, did you see that? Even if you want to sacrifice Little Zan, at the moment you've encountered danger, she would still be the first to stand out and plead for mercy on your behalf. She wouldn't really disregard your life and death just because you want to sacrifice her. You're her father in her heart, the father that gave birth to and fostered her. Duan Lingtian's words were spoken with a clear and resounding voice. Yi Ting laughed bitterly, and then he put away his sword and sighed. Do you think I really want to sacrifice little Zan? If I had another way, then even if I have to die, I wouldn't allow little Zan to marry that bastard. Yi Ting's sudden change caused both Duan Lingtian and Yi Zan to be unable to help but be stunned. The present Yi Zan was completely different from the Yi Zan from before. HMPH. Duan Lingtian glanced at Yi Ting with disdain. Weren't you continuously praising the young master of the Chen clan before little Zan earlier? Why have you changed your words now? I was forced by circumstances and only wanted to convince little Zan. Yi Ting sighed, and then looked at Yi Zan with an affectionate expression as he walked over slowly. Yi Ting stretched out his hand to lightly rub Yi Zan's head and spoke in a gentle voice. Little Zan, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Father. Yi Zan hadn't seen her father be so gentle in a long time, causing her eyes to go red as she pounced into Yi Ting's embrace. What happened exactly? In next to no time, Duan Lingtian and Yi Zan found out about the sequence of events from Yi Ting. It turned out that the entire thing was caused by Yi Wei alone. Yi Wei had privately agreed to the request of the Chen clan to unite both clans in marriage and had agreed to engage Yi Zan to the good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan. Because of this, he utilized the relationships of the Chen clan to obtain a great deal of benefit. When Yi Ting found out about this matter, he was furious and even personally went to the Chen clan with the intention of breaking off the engagement. But would the Chen clan be willing? The Chen clan put out word that if the Yi clan didn't fulfill the promise, the Chen clan would declare war towards the Yi clan. They would make the Yi clan vanished completely from Drift Cloud Town and become history. The strongest in our Yi clan is father who rarely leaves the clan, yet he's only at the 3rd level of the void interpretation stage. After this incident occurred, I was most worried that father would find out. Once he finds out, he would surely kill second brother with his own 2 hands. When he spoke up to hear, Yi Ting glanced at Yi Wei with disappointment. Moreover, with my father's temper, he'd surely go all out for little Zan's sake and fight the Chen clan to the end. But once the matter developed to that extent, the Yi clan would be finished. The Chen clan is too strong. They possess 2 martial artists at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage. Moreover, the supreme elder of the Chen clan is even in existence at the 5th level of the void interpretation stage. Our Yi clan going against the Chen clan would be no different to throwing an egg at a rock. Yi Ting closed his eyes with a slightly pained expression, and he continued after a short while. So I made a painful decision for the sake of the entire Yi clan, and it was to unite with the Chen clan in marriage and make little Zan give in. For this matter, I spared no pains in personally destroying the relationship I had with little Zan and went against the promise I made to my late wife. Little Zan, I'm sorry, father has wronged you. As he finished speaking, Yi Ting wept bitterly, and he had an apologetic and guilty expression. Father. Yi Zan embraced her father tightly as 2 lines of clear tears dropped down from her eyes, and she muttered. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I always thought you weren't fond of me anymore and didn't love me anymore. It hurt so much, it really hurt so much. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the pair of father and daughter before him. It would look like he'd misunderstood Yi Ting as well. Yi Ting was a good father yet was the patriarch of a clan at the same time, and he had to consider many things. Patriarch Yi. When he saw Yi Ting and Yi Zan move apart, Duan Lingtian took a step forward and looked at Yi Ting before speaking with a low voice. You said earlier that the strongest in the Chen clan is a 5th level void interpretation stage martial artist. Yes. Yi Ting nodded, and his gaze lit up at the same time. Brother Duan, could it be that you? Patriarch Yi, I'll make a trip to the Chen clan with you. Duan Lingtian interrupted Yi Ting and walked out of the Yi clan's audience hall with large strides, and he didn't forget to turn around and look at Yi Zan when he arrived before the door. Little Zan, Big Brother Duan will deal with this trouble for you today. Big Brother Duan, are you really certain? Yi Zan said with a worried expression, I don't desire for anything to happen to you, otherwise, I'll be unable to be at ease for my entire lifetime. Don't worry. Duan Lingtian smiled confidently. He didn't take a clan whose strongest member was a 5th level void interpretation stage martial artist seriously. It was fine if they were sensible, yet if they weren't, he wouldn't mind teaching them a lesson. A cold light flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes when he thought up to hear. After leaving the Yi clan estate with Yi Ting, Duan Lingtian and Yi Ting traveled side by side towards the Chen clan estate. All along the way, he found out about some things about the Drift Cloud Town from Yi Ting. The Chen clan was the absolute overlord in Drift Cloud Town, and not a single clan dare defend the Chen clan. There were a total of 3 clans like the Yi clan in Drift Cloud Town, and all of them had to conduct their business while taking the Chen clan into consideration. Moreover, they had to hand over a portion of the profits of their various businesses to the Chen clan every single month. What an overbearing clan! Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed with a bright light as he muttered. There's nothing that can be done about this. The strong are respected in Cloud Continent. Their Chen clan possesses 3 existences at the 4th level of the Void Interpretation stage and above, and it has already firmly established their position as overlord in Drift Cloud Town. Yi Ting sighed. With the presence of those 3 experts at the 4th level of the Void Interpretation stage or above, our 3 clans wouldn't be a match for the Chen clan even if we joined forces. Duan Lingtian nodded, as this was something he deeply approved. Even though the 3rd level and 4th level of the Void Interpretation stage was only a single level in difference, yet it was a large gap, and it was an entire strength of 20 ancient horned dragons in difference between the two. Such a difference in strength was like a chasm that was impossible to surmount. The Chen clan estate was situated in the eastern part of Drift Cloud Town, it occupied an extremely vast area, and it was far from something the Yi clan estate could compare to. As expected of the number 1 clan in Drift Cloud Town, Duan Lingtian stood in the sky above the Chen clan estate as he looked down at the scene beneath his feet. At his side, Yi Ting was slightly perturbed, and he said with a bitter smile. Brother Duan, aren't we going too far by doing this? No matter what, this Chen clan is the number 1 clan in our Drift Cloud Town. Patriarch Yi, do you think that if we're sufficiently courteous today, the Chen clan would readily agree to breaking off the engagement with your Yi clan and disregard all past grudges? Duan Lingtian replied with a question instead. It's impossible, of course. Yi Ting hurriedly shook his head. If the Chen clan knows that our Yi clan wants to break off the engagement, they would surely act according to what they threatened our Yi clan with in the past and launch an attack at our Yi clan. Then do you think there's any difference between our actions of trespassing into the Chen clan like this or entering from the front door with sufficient courtesy? Duan Lingtian asked again. Yi Ting shook his head. Then do you like acting like we are now, or do you like being sufficiently courteous and entering through the front door? Duan Lingtian asked again. What we're doing now. Yi Ting's eyes lit up and seemed to have been enlightened by Duan Lingtian, and then he looked down at the Chen clan estate beneath his feet and roared. Members of the Chen clan, hear me. The Yi clan's Yi Ting has come to break off the engagement. How could your Chen clan's good-for-nothing profligate young master taint my daughter? Yi Ting's voice contained origin energy and spread out, and it was like a thunderclap that exploded out in the sky above the Chen clan estate and undoubtedly alarmed the entire Chen clan. Duan Lingtian was stunned, and he couldn't help but give Yi Ting a thumbs up as he said with a dumbstruck expression, Patriarch Yi, looks like I've underestimated you. He originally wanted to teach Yi Ting to do this, yet who knew that Yi Ting would teach himself and even perform better than he'd expected. It's the members of the Yi clan. The members of the Yi clan have come to break off the engagement. The entire Chen clan estate was completely bustling because of the words Yi Ting spoke. Moreover, it wasn't just the Chen clan estate, even the people nearby the Chen clan estate heard what Yi Ting had said. What do the members of the Yi clan want to do? Are the members of the Yi clan provoking the dignity of the Chen clan? It looks to me like the Yi clan wants to seek death. Many people soared up into the sky from the surroundings of the Chen clan estate, and they approached the Chen clan estate with the intention of watching the show. It's the Yi clan's patriarch, Yi Ting. In next to no time, someone recognized Yi Ting. Who's that by Yi Ting's side? There were also some people that shot their gazes towards Duan Lingtian who was by Yi Ting's side. 843. Chapter 844, Receiving a Blade Barehanded. I felt the voice from before was like the voice of the Yi clan's patriarch, yet I never imagined that it was true. Logically speaking, the Yi clan's patriarch isn't such a rash person, yet why would he provoke the Chen clan like this today? It's truly impossible to understand. Could it be that a young man that looks to be around 25 is capable of helping the Yi clan go against the Chen clan? No matter if you believe it or not, I don't. In the sky above the Chen clan estate, more and more people gathered over to look at Yi Ting and Duan Lingtian from afar. At this moment, people that knew Yi Ting didn't dare greet him, as they were deeply afraid of bringing calamity onto themselves. Yi Ting, what gall you have? At this moment, the sky above the Chen clan estate was fully surrounded by people, and a curly-bearded man in blue clothes soared up into the sky from within the Chen clan estate and shouted with a voice that was like a thunderclap. After a short moment, the curly-bearded man had arrived nearby Duan Lingtian and Yi Ting, and his chilly gaze looked at Yi Ting. Yi Ting, looks like you really don't want to live. It's the Chen clan's third elder, Chen Lei. Supposedly, not only does Chen Lei possess a formidable strength, his temper is extremely explosive, he frequently kills another just because of a slight argument. He's a completely and utterly boorish person. A boorish person isn't terrifying, what's most terrifying is a boorish person that possesses a strength that far exceeds an ordinary person. In next to no time, some people recognized the curly-bearded man. For a time, the surrounding crowd of spectators were curious about how Yi Ting would deal with Chen Lei. Under the numerous gazes of anticipation, Yi Ting utterly didn't spare a glance to Chen Lei and didn't even intend to look at Chen Lei, and he looked at Duan Lingtian instead. Brother Duan, he's called Chen Lei and is an elder of the Chen clan. His cultivation is similar to mine and is at the second level of the void interpretation stage. Second level of the void interpretation stage. Duan Lingtian was slightly surprised as he never imagined that a random person that came out from the Chen clan would have a cultivation that was capable of comparing to the patriarch of the Yi clan, Yi Ting. Now, Duan Lingtian finally understood why the Chen clan would be the #1 clan in Drift Cloud Town. Just the reserves and resources was sufficient to cause the other 3 clans, including the Yi clan, to be ashamed. Yi Ting, looks like you've really thrown off all fear today. The curly beard of Chen Lei twitched from anger of being disregarded by Yi Ting, and his eyes that were large like gongs instantly glared wide open as he shouted out explosively, then his figure flashed out to charge directly towards Yi Ting, striking out on the slightest disagreement. This was the third elder of the Chen clan, Chen Lei. For a time, the surrounding spectators sighed with admiration. I've heard of the Chen clan's third elder's reputation since long ago, and now that I've seen it today, his temper is really as explosive as the rumors say. Yi Ting, your grandpa Chen will let you know the consequences of provoking my Chen clan today. As he dashed halfway, Chen Lei raised his hand to cause a large saber to appear within his hand, and then strands of violet-colored bolts of lightning appeared and coiled around the saber. The lightning saber struck out straight towards Yi Ting, and it descended down at Yi Ting's head without holding back in the slightest. In the sky, the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth rose abruptly. 77 ancient horned dragon silhouettes and a few thousand ancient mammoth silhouettes flashed out abruptly with an overbearing might. Second level of the void interpretation stage. Second level intermediate lightning concept. Grade 4 spirit weapon. This was Chen Lei's entire strength. Yi Ting, who was enveloped beneath the lightning saber, stood on the spot instead without taking the slightest action, and his expression didn't change, causing him to seem exceedingly composed. Has Yi Ting been stunned from fear? The surrounding spectators were stunned. In next to no time, they realized that Yi Ting wasn't stunned from fear, but instead knew that he would be fine. Suddenly, the violet-clothed young man by Yi Ting's side was already standing between Yi Ting and Chen Lei, and his speed was so swift that not a single person present saw his movements clearly. Subsequently, everyone saw an unbelievable scene. The violet-clothed young man struck out swiftly with his bare hand towards Chen Lei's saber, and it caused the spectators in the surroundings to be stunned once more. They only had a single though in their minds: could it be that this young man has gone mad? In next to no time, they realized that this young man wasn't mad, and they'd overthought things. Slap! They saw the violet-clothed young man's hand actually directly grabbed Chen Lei's saber that carried the might of lightning, and even Chen Lei himself was dumbstruck. Bang! An enormous bang resounded out, and everyone saw after the violet-clothed young man had tossed Chen Lei's grade 4 spirit saber aside, he slapped his palm onto Chen Lei, blasting Chen Lei flying. Ah! Chen Lei flew out like an arrow leaving the bow. He whose countenance had become pale like a sheet couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood as he flew, and he flew for a while before finally standing still in a sorry state. Who are you? Chen Lei couldn't help but gasp as he looked at the phenomenon of the heavens and earth above Duan Lingtian that hadn't even condensed into form before dispersing once more, and he asked with a fearful expression. The violet-clothed young man gave him too great of a shock. Even though he was unable to see the phenomenon of the heavens and earth developed when the young man attacked, yet just from the young man's ability to receive his full force strike with bare hands, the young man was at least in existence at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage. I'm the older brother of Yi Zan. Duan Lingtian replied indifferently when facing Chen Lei's question. Yi Zan, Chen Lei frowned, and then he seemed to have recalled something and came to a sudden understanding. I remember now. Yi Zan is the daughter of Yi Ting, the person our Chen clan is to unite in marriage with. But when did the Yi clan have such a figure like you? Chen Lei asked with a low voice. I'm not a member of the Yi clan. Duan Lingtian said. I came to the Chen clan this time only for the sake of helping Yi Zan to break off her engagement. If your Chen clan agrees to break off the engagement and promises not to vent your anger on the Yi clan, then everyone will be happy. Otherwise what? Duan Lingtian hadn't finished speaking when he was directly interrupted by a sonorous and dignified voice. Subsequently, a robust figure soared into the sky and arrived by Chen Lei's side. Third Elder, are you all right? Patriarch. When he saw the person that had arrived, even if Chen Lei's temper was explosive, he still bowed respectfully and reverently. I'm fine, but this young man isn't simple, and he's capable of receiving my full-force saber strike with his bare hands. He's at least in existence at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage or above. Duan Lingtian scanned the person that had interrupted him. This was a robust middle-aged man who faintly emitted the aura of one in high position, and when one heard the way Chen Lei addressed him, his identity was obvious. The Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong. When he left the Yi clan estate and was on the way to the Chen clan estate, Duan Lingtian had found out from Yi Ting that this Chen Dong was one of the 2 4th-level void interpretation martial artists of the Chen clan. He received your full-forced strike with his bare hands. Chen Dong's face went slightly grim when he heard Chen Lei. He'd just arrived so he didn't see the scene of Duan Lingtian receiving Chen Lei's saber earlier. Even though he knew he was capable of receiving Chen Lei's full-forced strike with his bare hands, but he was only barely capable of doing it. May I ask, young brother, where you are from? Chen Dong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with slight fear. As far as he was concerned, since this violet-clothed young man possessed a cultivation at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage at such an age, it was extremely likely that the violet-clothed young man before him possessed extraordinary background, and it was even possible that he was a member of one of the great powers in the eastern area of the northern desert. You might not know of my background even if I tell you, so there's no need to tell you. Duan Lingtian spoke indifferently, as even if he said he was from the Darken Dynasty, the people in Drift Cloud Town would probably not know of it. You really want to stand out for the Yi clan? Chen Dong frowned and asked with a low voice. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Young brother, you know that if our Chen clan were to give in after you've stirred up trouble like this, then perhaps our Chen clan will become the joke of the entire Drift Cloud Town. Our Chen clan can't afford to lose face like this, said Chen Dong. I know. Duan Lingtian nodded again and said indifferently, but if someone was capable of defeating all 3 of the strongest people of your Chen clan, then even if your Chen clan yields, no one would ridicule your Chen clan. Looks like you're really confident of your strength. Chen Dong started laughing from his extreme rage. You're too kind. Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged as he replied. Since it's like this, then I, Chen Dong, will properly seek advice from your extraordinary moves. If you're capable of defeating me, I'll ask our Chen clan's supreme elder to fight you. If you're capable of defeating him, then the marriage agreement between the Chen clan and Yi clan will be annulled, and the Chen clan won't look for trouble with the Yi clan in the future. Chen Dong's words were frank and open. Since Patriarch Chen has agreed so readily, then I'll seek guidance from you. Duan Lingtian smiled. He never imagined that Chen Dong would agree so readily and had a good impression of Chen Dong. As expected of the patriarch of the number 1 clan in Drift Cloud Town. Young brother, please go ahead. Chen Dong nodded before raising his hand, and a 7-foot-long spear appeared within his hand. Instantly, origin energy coiled around the spear before transforming into strands of grayish energy. Spear concept. Duan Lingtian was shocked greatly. It was the first time he'd seen someone that had comprehended intermediate spear concept, as the spear concept was considered to be an unpopular concept and it was much more difficult to comprehend than ordinary concepts. Whoosh! The energy of the heavens and the earth roiled in the sky above Chen Dong before finally converging into the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth. 151 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes and a few thousand lifelike ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed gradually into form, and they accumulated strength while waiting to be deployed. 4th level of the void interpretation stage. 4th level intermediate spear concept. Grade 3 spirit spear. Patriarch Chen, you're the first person I've seen to have comprehended spear concept to such a level, not to mention anything else, just this is enough to make me admire you. Duan Lingtian spoke with a sincere expression. Haha, Chen Dong held his spear and stood there ramrod straight, and he laughed heartily. I, Chen Dong, can be said to have not lived in vain since I was able to be praised by such an outstanding young expert like young brother. Whoosh, 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 right when Duan Lingtian and Chen Dong stood in confrontation, numerous figures soared into the sky from the Chen clan estate and gathered with Chen Lei. It was the group of elders and disciples of the Chen clan. In next to no time, they found out what had happened earlier from Chen Lei, and they couldn't help but be moved. Numerous gazes descended onto the violet-clothed young man in the distance. It was this young man that looks to be around the age of 25 that received the full-forced saber strike of our Chen clan's third elder, Chen Lei, with his bare hands. They knew of Chen Lei's strength. It was at the second level of the void interpretation stage, and it could be considered to be able to be ranked at the top in the entire Chen clan. 844. Chapter 845, Thunder Nana Strike. It's this kid that wants to help the Yi clan break off the engagement. A young man in embroidered clothes had a gloomy expression as he looked at Duan Lingtian, who was in confrontation with Chen Dong, and he asked with a low voice. A person like him is worthy of fighting my father. This young man in embroidered clothes was precisely the groom in the marriage agreement between the Chen clan and the Yi clan, the Chen clan's second young master, Chen En. Second young master, you must not look down upon him. Chen Lei frowned. He'd never liked this good-for-nothing son of the Chen clan, yet when he heard Chen En looking down upon Duan Lingtian, he felt slightly uncomfortable instead. After all, even he'd lost at Duan Lingtian's hands, and Chen En saying this was no different than looking down upon him. Third elder, I think you've grown old and are useless. Chen En glanced at Chen Lei before mocking, and his words didn't show the slightest fear towards the third elder of the Chen clan, who was famous for his explosive temper. Chen Lei's face sank, yet he just happened to be unable to do anything to Chen En. He'd always done things his own way in his entire lifetime, and he'd become indifferent to life and death. Even if it was the supreme elder of the Chen clan, an existence at the fifth level of the void interpretation stage, he wasn't afraid of him in the slightest. However, because he owed Chen Dong his life when he was young, it caused him to be helpless before Chen Dong and even Chen Dong's loved ones. Chen En was the second young master of the Chen clan and was the youngest son of Chen Dong. Because of Chen Dong's life-saving grace, Chen Lei would never flare up before Chen En. The strength of 150 ancient horned dragons, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as he looked at the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth above Chen Dong, and a sword had suddenly appeared within his hand, a sword that faintly emitted a terrifying aura. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Next, with a command in his heart, origin energy and second-level intermediate wind concept appeared at practically the exact same moment in Duan Lingtian's hand, and it fused easily into the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Whoosh! In the next moment, 150 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared out of thin air in the sky above Duan Lingtian, and it was precisely the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth formed drawn from the energy contained within Duan Lingtian's sword. Under Duan Lingtian's intentional control, the ancient horned dragon silhouettes had appeared at the same time, so no one noticed any inkling or noticed the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand. Duan Lingtian stood while resting on his sword with 150 ancient horned dragon silhouettes in the sky above him, and he stood in confrontation with Chen Dong, who stood in his spear laying horizontal before him and 151 ancient horned dragon silhouettes in the sky above him. Even though Duan Lingtian was capable of instantly and easily defeating Chen Dong by relying on his soul skill, Thousand Illusion. But Chen Dong's frankness from before caused Duan Lingtian to have a rather good impression of him, so Duan Lingtian had decided to fight Chen Dong in this way to show his respect towards Chen Dong. Even though it was slightly difficult to obtain victory in this way, Duan Lingtian didn't regret it. Moreover, fighting Chen Dong with a similar strength would be able to bring forth a tempering effect to a certain extent. Unless Chen Dong utilizes any other concepts, otherwise, I'll at most utilize the first-level elementary sword concept to execute the 9 dragons radiant flash and will absolutely not utilize my lightning concept and earth concept. Once he exerted his first-level elementary sword concept, it would be comparable to the strength of an ancient horned dragon. In this way, Duan Lingtian's strength would be comparable to the strength of 151 ancient horned dragons, and it would be equal to Chen Dong. Even if Chen Dong's strength slightly surpassed him, it would only be the strength of a few thousand ancient mammoths. That little bit of distance could be disregarded entirely. Fight! The sword in Duan Lingtian's hand faintly emitted strands of fierce aura, and at the same time, a single ancient horned dragon silhouette appeared silently at an inconspicuous corner. The strength of 151 ancient horned dragons were waiting to be deployed. Young brother, I admire you for possessing such achievements at your age. No matter win or lose, I want to invite you to have a drink in my Chen clan today. Chen Dong, who stood with his spear laying horizontally before him, spoke with a clear voice, and his robe fluttered with the wind. Thank you, Patriarch Chen. Duan Lingtian, who stood while resting on his sword, smiled and nodded. Patriarch Chen is really magnanimous. The young man has come to provoke his Chen clan, yet he actually wants to invite the young man for a drink. As expected of the Chen clan's patriarch. With such magnanimity, no wonder the Chen clan was capable of being the #1 clan in Ardrift Cloud Town. With just Patriarch Chen's magnanimity, the Chen clan deserves its reputation as the #1 clan in Drift Cloud Town. The surrounding crowd of spectators nodded successively, and their words were filled with admiration towards Chen Dong. Young brother, watch out. Suddenly, Chen Dong shouted out explosively, and as soon as he finished speaking, he'd already dashed out with a speed so swift that he only left behind numerous clear afterimages. Swoosh! A wave of terrifying and piercing howls resounded out at almost the exact same moment. Instantly, Chen Dong, who arrived nearby Duan Lingtian, abruptly swung out the 7-foot spear in his hand. Bang, 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 everywhere the spear passed, it was like a WYRM that left its lair, giving rise to waves of deafening sounds of explosions of the air, and the head of the WYRM even smashed fiercely towards Duan Lingtian. The strength of 151 ancient horned dragons flooded out completely. 9 dragons radiant flash. Early on, at the instant Chen Dong had finished speaking, Duan Lingtian had already started moving. He didn't choose to dodge, because it was impossible for his speed to be swifter than the spear in Chen Dong's hand. It was even to the extent that even if Chen Dong utilized a movement technique, it would be far from something he would be able to compare to. The phenomenon of the heavens and the earth in the sky above him relied mainly on the amplification of the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand, and even though his cultivation was comparable to Chen Dong, his comprehension of concept was far inferior to Chen Dong. The speed of one's movement technique relied on one's origin energy and concept. Presently, because of the difference in concept, the speed he revealed when executing a movement technique was bound to be far inferior to Chen Dong. In this way, he could only utilize his advantage, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. 9 dragons radiant flash. Without the slightest hesitation, a sword strike whistling out with a raise of his hand, and a vast and enormous strength gushed out from the sword to finally transform into 3 divine dragons. 2 of these divine dragons were completely material, whereas one of them looked extremely illusory. Instantly, the 4 eyes of the 2 divine dragons flashed. At the same time, Duan Lingtian noticed that the 7-foot-long spear of Chen Dong's that pierced swiftly towards him had actually slowed down instantly, and it caused his heart to be unable to help but jerk. Could it be that Chen Dong has noticed something? Swish, 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 swish. 4 extreme flashes shot out from the eyes of the 2 divine dragons, and directly shot towards Chen Dong with a speed so swift it was astonishing. At the critical moment, Chen Dong seemed to possess foresight, and the 7-foot-long spear in his hand shook before the tip of his spear flashed past like a shooting star. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 7-foot-long spear that contained a spear concept that seemed to be able to penetrate everything pierced out 5 times successively in an extremely short period of time. Even though the speed of these 5 strikes weren't as swift as the extreme flashes shot out from the divine dragons, yet they pierced towards the part of the sky the extreme flashes were about to flash past. When the first strike pierced the sky, the first extreme flash just happened to flash over, and it collided with the spear strike and was shattered. The second strike shattered the second extreme flash. The third strike shattered the third. The fourth strike shattered the fourth. The fifth strike already had no more extreme flashes to shatter. Swoosh. It tapped on the sky like a drop of water that dropped on the calm surface of a lake, causing the airflow in the sky to roil like the water on the surface of the lake, and it formed into circle after circle of ripples. What a formidable martial skill! Duan Lingtian's strike came to no result, and he stood in the sky while looking with a surprised expression at Chen Dong, who stood proudly in the distance. Of course, his martial skill being formidable was one aspect, but the most important aspect was Chen Dong's reaction speed in battle. Even though Chen Dong's martial skill was formidable, yet it was quite inferior to the 9 dragons' radiant flash, and the reason it was able to block the 4 extreme flashes shot out by his 9 dragons' radiant flash was because of Chen Dong's terrifying reaction speed. 5 strikes were struck out successively after his opponent's strike, and the first 4 strikes shattered his 4 extreme flashes, whereas, even though the 5th strike hit nothing, it was only because there was nothing for it to hit. Duan Lingtian was certain that even if there was a 5th extreme flash at that moment, it would be difficult for it to escape Chen Dong's 5th strike. It's the Chen clan's heaven rank martial skill, Thunder Nana Strike. In next to no time, someone amongst the surrounding spectators couldn't help but exclaim with shock. Supposedly, once the Chen clan's Thunder Nana Strike is cultivated to the perfection stage, it is capable of instantly striking out 9 times, 9 successive strikes. I've also heard that a single strike can only be considered to be at the rudiment stage, 3 strikes is at the initial stage, 5 strikes is at the mastery stage, and 9 strikes is the perfection stage. So in this way, Patriarch Chen has already cultivated the Thunder Nana Strike to the mastery stage. The surrounding crowd of spectators discussed animatedly, and they were surprised by Chen Dong's attainments in the Thunder Nana Strike. At the same time that the might of a heaven rank martial skill was formidable, it was extremely difficult to cultivate. Everyone knew clearly how difficult it was to cultivate a heaven rank martial skill to the mastery stage, and it was precisely because of this that they felt heartfelt admiration towards Chen Dong. HMPH. His attack looked very good when he struck out, yet wasn't it easily dealt with by my father? A piece of trash. A cold smile suffused the corners of Chen An's mouth as he looked at Duan Lingtian from afar. The corners of the nearby Chen Lei twitched. Trash. A good-for-nothing disciple like you dares call that extraordinary genius young man as trash. If Chen An wasn't the son of Chen Dong, Chen Lei would have scolded Chen An right in the face since long ago. Second young master, you called him trash because you think you can defeat him. Suddenly, an aged figure appeared silently by Chen An's side, and only when he spoke did Chen An and the other members of the Chen clan notice his presence. Supreme Elder. Everyone from the Chen clan bowed respectfully when they saw this old man with white hair and brows who was over the age of 70. Supreme Elder. As he looked at the old man, Chen An's face went slightly pale as he hurriedly lowered his head and bowed. Chen Lei couldn't help but smile when he saw this scene. In the entire Chen clan, besides the patriarch Chen Dong and the eldest young master that had joined a great power, only the Supreme Elder was capable of restraining the second young master. Second young master, you haven't answered me, do you think you can defeat him? The Supreme Elder asked Chen An once more, and his aged face revealed extreme seriousness. Chen An shook his head and laughed bitterly. Even though he was good for nothing, yet he wasn't stupid. The violet-clothed young man that looked to be at the same age as he was obviously an expert at the same level as his father. How could he possibly defeat the young man? 845. Chapter 846, The Chen Clan's Supreme Elder. Then on what basis did second young master call him trash? You admitted you were inferior to him earlier, so doesn't that mean that you feel you're even inferior to a piece of trash? The Supreme Elder was unforgiving and spoke word by word. Supreme Elder, I was wrong. Chen An took a deep breath before lowering his head, and then he raised his brows as he glanced towards the violet-clothed young man that was standing in confrontation with his father, and a ghastly cold light flashed within his eyes. He didn't dare harbor a grudge towards the Supreme Elder, so he could only vent all his displeasure onto Duan Lingtian. HMPH. The Supreme Elder grunted coldly, and then he looked at the violet-clothed young man in the distance with an extremely serious gaze. Young brother, your strength is admirable. Even though Chen Dong had stopped Duan Lingtian's attack, yet he wasn't self-satisfied in the slightest, and he instead looked at Duan Lingtian sincerely. May I ask young brother's great name? Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian held the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand tightly as his gaze looked straight at Chen Dong, and his expression became slightly serious. Even though Chen Dong's Thunder Nana Strike was inferior to the extreme flashes shot out by his 9 Dragons Radiant Flash in terms of speed, Chen Dong's terrifying insight was capable of stopping the extreme flashes instead. Unknowingly, sweat flowed out from the palms of Duan Lingtian's hand. He hadn't felt this sort of feeling in a long time, this type of feeling where he was uncertain if he would win or lose. But needless to say, this sort of feeling had completely aroused the blood in Duan Lingtian's body that had lay silent for a long time, and then it gradually started to boil. Duan Lingtian, Lingtian, soaring above the heavens, what a good name. Chen Dong praised, and then the 7-foot-long spear in his hand shook as his gaze instantly became fierce. Brother Lingtian, let's go at it again. All right. Duan Lingtian replied readily, and he clenched tightly onto the 3-foot-long blade in his hand as he stared fixedly at Chen Dong. A gale arose. Fight! Chen Dong seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind to arrive before Duan Lingtian. He didn't have the intention of moving, and the 7-foot-long spear shook as he flashed swiftly towards Duan Lingtian. Thunder Nana strike! Swoosh! 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 Even though Chen Dong appreciated Duan Lingtian's ability, yet the successive spear strikes of his struck out at almost the exact same instant, and they shot straight at Duan Lingtian's vital points, and he didn't show the slightest bit of mercy. Perhaps, it was because he appreciated Duan Lingtian's ability that he would exert his full strength. This was a form of respect to Duan Lingtian. Bring it on! Duan Lingtian's gaze lit up brightly as the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand struck out at almost the exact same instant, and its speed was so swift it wasn't the slightest bit inferior to the speed Chen Dong struck out with his spear. Sword drawing arts. A simple sword drawing arts was utilized by Duan Lingtian to a perfect extent. Swish! A single sword tore through the sky while carrying the strength of 151 ancient horned dragons, and it stopped the row of 5 spear strikes of Chen Dong's and shattered them one by one. What a swift sword strike! Chen Dong's pupils constricted as his figure flashed to hurriedly flash backward. He was able to discern that the sword skill Duan Lingtian executed earlier was an extremely low-ranked sword skill, and it was even to the extent that it possibly hadn't even attained the earth rank. But it was precisely a sword skill like this that brought forth a miraculous effect when in close combat. Even many heaven-rank martial skills might not be swifter than it while in close combat. Haha, Patriarch Chen, again. Duan Lingtian laughed heartily as he called out to Chen Dong, and he was once again locked in combat with Chen Dong. Sword drawing arts. 9 Dragons Radiant Flash. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand seemed to have been given life by him, and every single time it flashed out, it seemed to be assisted by the gods as it moved to intercept the grade 3 spirit spear in Chen Dong's hand successively. Swoosh, 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 Chen Dong's spear was like an enraged dragon leaving its lair, and its might was formidable when combined with the Thunder Nana strike. The 5 successive spear strikes coupled with his own formidable insight allowed Chen Dong to be in an invincible position against Duan Lingtian. Swish, 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 Duan Lingtian's sword struck out like a clear breeze that brushed a willow leaf, and the 9 dragons' radiant flash and sword drawing arts was utilized interchangeably. Of course, if it wasn't necessary, he wouldn't utilize the sword drawing arts. Duan Lingtian noticed that his comprehension towards the 9 dragons' radiant flash had gradually started to deepen without him noticing it, and he searched for a way to break through it during this fierce battle. Duan Lingtian relied on his sword, Chen Dong held a spear, and both of them fought for half an hour, and the eyes of the surrounding spectators were dazzled by this scene. Where exactly did this freak come from? He's actually capable of fighting Patriarch Chen equally. He seems to be someone the Yi clan brought over, and he came for the sake of making the Chen clan break off the engagement. But based on the current circumstances, he'll probably be unable to break off the engagement. The Yi clan is doomed. A wave of sighing sounded out amongst the surrounding crowd of spectators. As far as they were concerned, since the backing the Yi clan had found was unable to do anything against the Chen clan's patriarch, then let alone doing anything to the strongest in the Chen clan, the supreme elder. The Yi clan actions of coming to break of the engagement would surely end in tragedy. It was even to the extent that it was extremely likely the Yi clan would welcome the flames of rage of the Chen clan. After all, the Yi clan had caused the Chen clan to lose face greatly this time. Brother Duan, in the distance, Yi Ting's face was ashen as he clenched his fists tightly, and his nerves were strained as he looked at the distant violet-clothed figure with a bitter smile on his face. The wave of sighing that entered his ears caused his mind to be in turmoil. He suddenly felt that he might have made the wrong bet. Swish! Suddenly, a sword howl that was even more ear-piercing than before interrupted Yi Ting's thoughts and drew his gaze. Subsequently, Yi Ting saw to his shock that when the violet-clothed young man in the distance struck out once more, 3 material divine dragons whistles out. This time, the eyes of all 3 divine dragons shot out extreme flashes. A total of 6 extreme flashes tore through the sky with a speed so swift that he was utterly incapable of catching sight of it. Thunder Nana strike. When faced with the 9 dragons' radiant flash Duan Lingtian executed once more, Chen Dong instantly struck out with his spear, causing 5 successive strikes to shoot out and shatter 5 of the extreme flashes. However, he didn't feel delighted because of this, and a wisp of a bitter smile arose on the corners of his mouth as he looked at the 6th extreme flash that shot over instantly. I still have to lose in the end. At the same time that he sighed in his heart, Chen Dong felt the spear in his hand shake, and it shook his hand that held the spear to the point it split open, causing him to be unable to help but ease up his hold of his spear. You've won. Chen Dong used his other hand to grab the spear that flew out, and he looked at Duan Lingtian with a complicated gaze and said, I truly never imagined that you would actually advance the stage of your martial skill while in battle. It was precisely because Duan Lingtian's martial skill had advanced by a stage and exerted 6 extreme flashes that caused him to lose. This was something he knew extremely clearly in his heart. But he was convinced of his loss. It was a good match. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly as he casually put away the quasi-royal grade spirit sword, and the 151 ancient horned dragon silhouettes in the sky above him dispersed instantly. The Chen clan's patriarch has lost. This young man actually defeated the Chen clan's patriarch. It seems like his martial skill broke through in battle, and that was why he was able to defeat Patriarch Chen in one go. No matter what, Duan Lingtian had won, and he shocked all the surrounding spectators, including the group of elders and disciples of the Chen clan. Impossible, how could my father lose to him? Chen shook his head ceaselessly, and his mind was slightly dazed, as he wasn't willing to believe that everything before his eyes was real. In next to no time, Chen recovered from his shock, and he seemed to have recalled something and grunted coldly. So what if he defeated my father? My father's strength is inferior to the Supreme Elder. Supreme Elder, this fellow is helping the Yi clan to provoke our Chen clan, so you must teach him a proper lesson. As he finished speaking, Chen looked at the nearby old man, the Supreme Elder of the Chen clan, and he spoke with a flattering expression. HMPH. The Chen clan's Supreme Elder grunted coldly, and it was unknown if he was indicating his displeasure towards Chen or his displeasure towards the distant Duan Lingtian. The Chen clan's patriarch has been defeated. So according to the agreement between Duan Lingtian and the Chen clan's patriarch, the Chen clan's Supreme Elder will make a move. The Chen clan's patriarch probably has to go ask the Supreme Elder to make a move now. Even though that Duan Lingtian had defeated the Chen clan's patriarch, but he was barely able to do it. The Chen clan's Supreme Elder is in existence at the 5th level of the Void Interpretation stage, and his strength far surpasses the Chen clan's patriarch. It's impossible for Duan Lingtian to be a match for him. The Yi clan will be unable to escape calamity in the end. The surrounding spectators discussed animatedly. Brother Lingtian, so long as you defeat my Chen clan's Supreme Elder, then I'll honor my promise, but I have to remind you that the strength of our Chen clan's Supreme Elder far exceeds my strength. If he exerts his full strength, then it's sufficient to defeat me with a single move. Chen Dong looked at Duan Lingtian and spoke with a serious expression. Patriarch Chen, since I've already decided to assist the Yi clan, then I'll naturally help them to the end. Please ask your Chen clan's Supreme Elder to come out. Duan Lingtian spoke frankly, and he stood proudly without the slightest fear. A newborn calf is really not afraid of a tiger. Chen Dong shook his head and sighed, yet he didn't say anything further, and then he turned around to look at the white-haired and white-browed old man that stood at the front of the group of Chen clan members and said respectfully, Supreme Elder, I roughly know the sequence of events of the incident today. Since someone has come to slap the face of our Chen clan, then our Chen clan naturally can't be cowards. The old man interrupted Chen Dong before instantly vanishing on the spot, and when he appeared once more, he was already before Duan Lingtian. Senior, you're the Chen clan's Supreme Elder. Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted slightly as he seemed to be shocked by the old man's speed. Exactly, the old man nodded. Instantly, the surrounding crowd of spectators were surprised. He's the Chen clan's Supreme Elder. I saw him standing with the members of the Chen clan long ago, yet I never imagined that he was the Chen clan's Supreme Elder. With the speed Senior revealed earlier, if I'm not wrong, Senior had already broken through to the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage, right? Duan Lingtian glanced deeply at the old man and spoke frankly. 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage. As soon as Duan Lingtian said this, the surroundings instantly went deathly silent, and the gazes of everyone descended onto the old man in unison. Little fellow, you have good eyesight. The old man glanced at Duan Lingtian with slight surprise, and his words had obviously indirectly confirmed what Duan Lingtian said. For a time, the surroundings were in an uproar. The Chen clan's Supreme Elder has broken through to the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage. He really deserves his reputation as the #1 expert in Drift Cloud Town. The animated discussion of the surrounding spectators wasn't the slightest bit stingy with words of praise. 846 Chapter 847, The Supreme Elder has gone mad. Sixth level of the void interpretation stage. Yi Ting stood at the side, yet the current him seemed to be slightly unable to fit with the surrounding atmosphere. At the same time, his expression became completely gloomy. The Yi clan is doomed. Yi Ting's eyes went completely dim as he muttered to himself. I, Yi Ting, have let down the ancestors of the Yi clan. Senior, can we begin? Duan Lingtian had a calm expression as he looked at the old man and asked. HMPH, you know our Chen clan's supreme elder is an expert at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage yet still dare make a move. You're truly looking for death. Chen looked at Duan Lingtian from afar as he ridiculed. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Chen before paying no further attention to him, and he looked at the old man instead. Little fellow, your cultivation has already broken through to the 4th level of the void interpretation stage at such a young age. Your natural talent is truly difficult to come by. So long as you promise not to interfere in the matters of the Yi clan, then my Chen clan will let bygones be bygones and even serve you as a distinguished guest. How about it? The old man asked with a calm tone, and his words contained the meaning of treasuring a genius. The old man's words shocked the surrounding spectators to the point of going into an uproar. Never had they imagined that the Chen clan's supreme elder would actually look so highly upon Duan Lingtian. But with a quick thought, they came to an understanding. Duan Lingtian's natural talent was indeed worthy of anyone looking highly upon him. Senior, I'm accustomed to acting and handling matters from the beginning until the end. Duan Lingtian politely refused the old man's good intentions. Since it's like this, then you can accompany me to properly loosen up my body. I've already not fought for many years. The old man twisted his neck as the origin energy on his body skyrocketed, and it caused the energy of the heavens and the earth to roil before forming into the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth in a short moment. In the sky, 80 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes condensed into form. Whoosh! In next to no time, the milky white origin energy on the old man's body changed to instantly transform into a fiery red-colored sea that enveloped the old man within it, and the scorching flames shot into the sky. In the sky, the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth underwent a change, and another 60 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. 5th level intermediate fire concept. Suddenly, an enormous hammer appeared in the old man's right hand, and the enormous hammer merged into the sea of flames in the blink of an eye, and then scorching flames blazed up. Whoosh! Another 55 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared and were ready to be deployed, and they were precisely the amplification of the enormous hammer as a grade 3 spirit weapon. The old man had exerted his full strength, and it was comparable to the strength of 195 ancient horned dragons. Compared to the strength Duan Lingtian revealed before, it was the strength of an entire 44 more ancient horned dragons, and they were entirely not on the same level. If nothing unexpected happened, Duan Lingtian's loss was something that was without the slightest suspense. This was also the thought in the hearts of the surrounding spectators. We're doomed, all Yi Ting's hopes were torn into pieces when he saw this scene, and if it wasn't for so many eyes staring at him, he'd have snuck off since long ago. As far as he was concerned, Duan Lingtian would probably lose in a single move against the Chen clan's supreme elder. The moment Duan Lingtian lost would be the moment misfortune struck the Yi clan. Senior, please go ahead. Under the gazes of everyone present, Duan Lingtian stood with his hands behind his back, and not only did he not circulate his origin energy and concept to accumulate strength, he didn't even take out his spirit weapon. Little fellow, looks like you don't take me seriously. Let this old fellow properly teach you the manners you ought to conduct yourself with today. When he saw Duan Lingtian be so casual, the old man naturally believed that Duan Lingtian looked down upon him, and he instantly shouted out with a low voice before his figure vanished in the air. Of course, he didn't really vanish, but his speed was too swift to the point most of the people present were unable to catch a trace of the old man's figure. Most of the people being unable to catch the old man's figure didn't mean that Duan Lingtian was unable to. Besides the old man, Duan Lingtian and Chen Dong's cultivation was the highest amongst the people present, and even though the old man's speed was swift, they were still capable of clearly capturing the old man's figure. 1,000 illusions. Without the slightest hesitation, dim lights flickered in the depths of Duan Lingtian's eyes, and then his vast spiritual force pierced into the soul brand in the depths of his soul to execute the soul skill that belonged solely to him. His spiritual force swept out through the soul brand to construct an illusory space that enveloped out with Duan Lingtian as the center. The spectators were naturally unable to see all this. The crowd of spectators only saw the Chen clan's supreme elder appear before Duan Lingtian in the blink of an eye, and the enormous hammer that was coiled with scorching flames was held up above his head. Looks like Duan Lingtian has given up on resisting. He's courting death, The surrounding crowd of spectators shook their heads as when they saw Duan Lingtian still hadn't utilized his origin energy and concept up until now, they thought that Duan Lingtian was seeking death. But in the next moment, their pupils couldn't help but constrict. They noticed to their shock that after the Chen clan's supreme elder raised the enormous hammer above his head, he actually didn't smash it down towards Duan Lingtian. Swoosh! The Chen clan's supreme elder's enormous hammer descended, yet it smashed towards the sky nearby Duan Lingtian, and the hammer strike that contained the strength of 195 ancient horned dragons shook the sky to the point the airflow in the sky was swiftly compressed together. Bang! Finally, the airflow exploded, and a deafening explosion resounded out. Some of the spectators with comparatively lower cultivations were even shaken by this explosion to the point they bled from their 7 apertures and couldn't help but emit shrill cries. Along with the airflow exploding, a terrifying wave of air swept out in all directions, and it gave rise to a scorching hot wave that even caused the clothes on some people that were comparatively closer to be lit ablaze. My clothes are on fire. Has anyone comprehended water concept? Quickly help me put out the fire. My leg has been burned to the point of being numb and it's about to arrive at my family jewels. Ah! Help me, save me, For a time, the surrounding spectators whose clothes were on fire emitted shrill cries in succession. Swoosh! Everyone didn't even have the time to react when the Chen clan supreme elder's enormous hammer descended once more. This time, he turned around to smash it down towards the sky on the other side. Flee, quickly, the Chen clan's supreme elder has gone mad. Flee. Instantly, the spectators in that direction fled in unison, and they left behind a large empty space. Bang! The enormous hammer smashed onto the sky, causing another terrifying explosion that shook many people to the point they bled from all 7 apertures, and at the same time, numerous terrifying waves of air swept towards the surroundings. The waves of air contained a scorching aura of flames that caused the surrounding crowd of spectators to feel extremely hot, and many people even felt hot to the point their sweat streamed down. Duan Lingtian stood in the sky like an idle person that was watching the Chen clan's supreme elder go mad, and the explosions and waves of hot air were unable to affect him in the slightest. Bang, 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 The Chen clan's supreme elder struck down successively with his hammer, causing all the surrounding spectators to retreat back and not dare come close. The remaining people that remained close by were only a group of martial artists at the void interpretation stage. The Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong, was shockingly amongst them. Chen Dong was stunned long ago, and he barely recovered from his shock at this moment. As he looked at the supreme elder that madly swung the enormous hammer in his hand to smash onto the sky, Chen Dong hurriedly spoke out. Supreme elder, wake up. But unfortunately, no matter what method he used, he was unable to make the supreme elder return to his senses. What's wrong with the supreme elder? The Chen clan members were dumbstruck, and they didn't know what had happened. Damn it, when did the supreme elder go mad? Duan Lingtian's luck is really good and just happened to run into the moment the supreme elder went mad. Otherwise he would be dead for sure. Chen spoke with an ominous expression. Impossible. The supreme elder has absolutely not gone mad. I feel that the reason the supreme elder is like this now is all because of that Duan Lingtian. Chen Lei stared at Duan Lingtian with a burning gaze as he spoke of his judgment. How could that be possible? Chen didn't believe it and sneered. Third elder, I admit your strength is extremely formidable, but it's useless if you only possess brute strength. Duan Lingtian is a mere 4th level void interpretation stage martial artist. How could he possibly make the supreme elder, who's at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage, fall into such a state? Even though I don't know how he did it, but could it be that you don't find it to be strange? Chen Lei spoke with a low voice. Earlier, even when he discerned that the Supreme Elder was a 6th-level void interpretation stage expert, Duan Lingtian didn't reveal an expression of terror in the slightest, and he seemed to be confident and composed instead. Besides that, even when the Supreme Elder revealed his entire strength and ability and drew the energy of the heavens and the earth to from 195 ancient horned dragon silhouettes, Duan Lingtian wasn't prepared in the slightest. Not only did he not take out a spirit weapon, he didn't even exert his origin energy and concept. At that time, my thoughts were just like the thoughts of everyone else present. I thought that Duan Lingtian was seeking death. But now it would seem that he's absolutely not seeking death and has a way to deal with the Supreme Elder instead. Just like now, he's just standing there nearby the Supreme Elder, yet the Supreme Elder seems as if he's unable to notice him and is attacking the air instead. What does this indicate? It indicates that all of this is his doing. Chen Lei's words caused Chen and to go silent as well. The members of the Chen clan nodded in unison as they felt Chen Lei's words were reasonable. At the same time, their hearts were filled with surprise. Never had they imagined that the third elder of their Chen clan, who'd always been reputed for being boorish and having an explosive temper, would actually have such a meticulous side. Chen Lei's judgment quickly entered into the ears of the others, and it caused everyone to nod successively. Looks like the Yi clan really came prepared this time. I truly never imagined that this young man the Yi clan invited over is so terrifying. Not only did he defeat the Chen clan's patriarch in a head-on battle, he even relied on an unfathomable ability to make the Chen clan's supreme elder seem as if he'd gone mad. The Yi clan is going to be in the limelight this time. The surrounding crowd of spectators discussed animatedly. Many people that were acquainted with Yi Ting even flashed over successively towards the dumbstruck Yi Ting and greeted him warmly. Haha, Patriarch Yi, long time no see. Patriarch Yi, you still remember me, right? I'm Lao Wang, we had a meal together half a month ago. Patriarch Yi, a wave of fervent voices entered into Yi Ting's ears, yet Yi Ting didn't have a good mood in his heart. 847 Chapter 848, The Chen clan submits. He naturally knew these people. Early on when he and Duan Lingtian had arrived at the sky above the Chen clan estate and he'd shouted out those offensive words to the Chen clan, he'd noticed these people mixed within the crowd of spectators. At that time, he clearly noticed the gaze these people looked at him with. It was a gaze that wished for nothing more than to draw the line completely between them, and not a single one of them took the initiative to greet him. Not even a voice transmission. Yet now, Duan Lingtian was able to play with the strongest person in the Chen clan, the Supreme Elder, in the palms of his hand. So when they saw his Yi clan having the upper hand, these people rushed up impatiently. Of course, Yi Ting didn't disregard these people because of this. Because these people more or less had a relationship with the Yi clan, and his Yi clan had to rely on them in many places. Patriarch Yi, who's that? The crowd of people surrounded around Yi Ting as they sized up the violet-clothed young man in the distance, and their eyes were filled with terror and reverence as they asked Yi Ting curiously. After all, this violet-clothed young man had come along with Yi Ting, and he'd stood out for the sake of the Yi clan. He's my daughter's friend. Yi Ting smiled, and the gaze he looked at Duan Lingtian now was filled with a complicated expression. Earlier, when he saw it was impossible for Duan Lingtian's strength to defeat the Chen clan's supreme elder, his heart had already sank to rock bottom, and he completely lost the high spirits he arrived here with. But right when all his hopes were crushed to pieces and he felt the Yi clan would be ruined, Duan Lingtian had shown him such a show. For a time, his heart that had fallen from heaven to hell had once again soared up into the heavens. He knew that his daughter was saved. His Yi clan was saved. He's the friend of your daughter. Instantly, the eyes of the people by his side lit up, and some of them even revealed spurious expressions. Patriarch Yi, is it possible between him and your daughter? If your Yi clan is able to obtain such a superb son-in-law, then it will entirely capable of surpassing the Chen clan to become the #1 clan in Drift Cloud Town. Yi Ting looked at the violet-clothed young man that stood proudly in the distant sky when he heard this, and he had a bitter smile on his face. He was able to discern that his daughter had a rather good impression of this handsome and outstanding young man, and merely from his daughter's side, it was completely capable to be developed. But the problem was the young man utterly had no such thoughts. He was an experienced person and naturally knew that fondness the young man had towards his daughter was fondness that came from an older brother to a younger sister, and it didn't have a trace of anything else. I'm afraid he hasn't taken a fancy to my daughter. Yi Ting sighed. He knew that to a genius favored by the heavens like Duan Lingtian, his daughter was bound to only be a passing guest in his life. The surrounding crowd of people weren't surprised when they heard Yi Ting. Even if he can't be united in marriage with your daughter, with his relationship with your daughter, so long as he remembers to frequently pay visits to Drift Cloud Town and visit your Yi clan, it would be sufficient to guarantee a lifetime of peace for your Yi clan, said another person. Yeah, Patriarch Yi, your daughter has really encountered an extraordinary figure this time. Everyone looked at Yi Ting with envious gazes. Yi Ting's mood became much better when he heard this. Bang, 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 The Chen clan's supreme elder was still ceaselessly swinging his enormous hammer about to repeatedly smash onto space, and it resounded out with terrifying explosions that gave rise to surging hot waves. Presently, in the eyes of the surrounding spectators, the Chen clan's supreme elder was like a madman. Brother Ling Tian, what exactly have you done to the supreme elder? Finally, the Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong, gave up his thoughts of trying to wake the old man up, as he'd not only used speech and voice transmission, he'd even tried to make a move to subdue the old man. But every time he approached the old man would smash his hammer at him, terrifying him to the point of being frightened out of his wits, and he didn't dare approach the old man. In the end, no matter how unwilling he was in his heart, he could only yield and compromise with Duan Ling Tian. What, Patriarch Chen, do you want to represent the Chen clan to admit defeat? Since it's like that, do you still remember the agreement between us? Duan Ling Tian smiled lightly as he asked. Chen Dong laughed bitterly and nodded. Yes, we've lost. From today onward, the marriage agreement between the Yi clan and Chen clan is annulled. Father. The expression of Chen An, who stood in the distant crowd of the Chen clan, went grim, and then he took a stride forward and roared furiously. I don't agree. Yi Zan is my fiancé. I don't agree to breaking off the engagement. Duan Ling Tian frowned as he looked at Chen An. So it turns out that this person is the good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan that was engaged to Yi Zan. No wonder I kept having the feeling this person was looking hatefully at me. So it turns out that he's the person concerned. Duan Ling Tian paid no attention to Chen An's roars, and he looked at Chen Dong with a calm expression instead, as he believed that Chen Dong would deal with this properly. Shut up. Chen Dong glared angrily at Chen An and berated in a cold voice. Put away that lust of yours. If you dare say another word from now onwards, then get out of my Chen clan right away. Chen An was muddled when being berated by Chen Dong, yet he really didn't dare speak again. What a joke. Get out of the Chen clan. He wouldn't dare speak a word no matter what. He was nothing once he left the Chen clan. This was something that he knew well. Chen An stared hatefully at Duan Ling Tian and gnashed his teeth, and his heart was filled with extreme hatred. It's all because of Duan Ling Tian, it's all because he poked his nose into my affairs. At this moment, Chen An wished for nothing more than to slice Duan Ling Tian into thousands of pieces, yet when he recalled how Duan Ling Tian was capable of playing with their Chen clan's supreme elder in the palm of his hands, coldness couldn't help but arise in his heart. Duan Ling Tian, I'll surely not let you off. I surely won't. Chen An's eyes were filled with a ruthless sheen as he roared endlessly with rage in his heart. Brother Ling Tian, the marriage agreement between the Yi clan and Chen clan doesn't exist any longer from today onward. Besides that, my Chen clan won't look for trouble with the Yi clan because of this. Chen Dong looked at Duan Ling Tian with a sincere expression, and when he spoke up to hear, he looked at the old man that was striking madly in the distance and laughed bitterly. Now, can you allow our supreme elder recover to normal? He's as normal as everyone else. Duan Ling Tian spoke indifferently. At the same time, his spiritual force moved to directly withdraw his soul skill, whereas the illusory space that enveloped the Chen clan's supreme elder dispersed along with this. The Chen clan's supreme elder had naturally not gone mad, and he was only ceaselessly attacking the fake Duan Ling Tian in the illusory space. After the illusory space vanished, the Chen clan's supreme elder noticed Duan Ling Tian with a single glance, and he instantly raised the enormous hammer in his hand and wanted to attack once more. Brother Ling Tian, what are you doing? I've already done according to what you said, why haven't you let the Supreme Elder off? A familiar and low voice entered into the ears of the Supreme Elder, and it caused him to tremble as if struck by lightning. Patriarch, what did you say? You asked him to let me off. The Supreme Elder frowned as he looked at Chen Dong, and then he cursed angrily. Idiot, could it be that you didn't see he was only capable of dodging in a sorry state when facing my attacks? So long as I'm given more time, I'll surely be able to smash him into mush. The Supreme Elder's cursing caused Chen Dong to be stunned for a moment, and then his eyes lit up. Supreme Elder, you've sobered up. I've always been sober. The Supreme Elder frowned and said with slight impatience, enough, move aside. We'll talk once I smash this detestable kid into mush. As he spoke, he turned around and intended to attack Duan Ling Tian once more. Patriarch Chen, if this senior attacks me once more, I don't mind allowing him to go mad to his heart's content. The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled into a cold smile as he spoke straightforwardly to Chen Dong. Don't. Chen Dong was in panic as he hurriedly flashed to stand before Duan Lingtian and protect Duan Lingtian behind him before looking at the old man with a bitter smile on his face. Supreme Elder, you've lost already, there's no need to continue this battle. What do you mean by I've already lost? Patriarch, how old are you, could it be that you've lost your marbles? The old man grunted with displeasure. Supreme Elder, if you don't believe me, feel free to ask Second Elder, Third Elder, and the others. Duan Lingtian stood there on the spot earlier, yet you didn't touch him since the beginning until the end, and you only attacked the heir by yourself. Chen Dong was really afraid the old man would attack Duan Lingtian once more. At that time, Duan Lingtian would surely use that unfathomable ability to deal with the old man. Who knew if Duan Lingtian's ability would leave any side effects on the person it was used on? The Supreme Elder was the backbone of their Chen clan and couldn't be lost. What? The old man was stunned when he heard Chen Dong's solemn words. How could this be possible? I was clearly chasing that kid while smashing my hammer at him, but he fled quickly, causing me to be unable to hit him. When did I attack the heir? Supreme Elder, what the Patriarch said is true. Meanwhile, Chen Lei looked at the old man and laughed bitterly. Yes, Supreme Elder, all of us saw it with our own 2 eyes. The other elders of the Chen clan nodded successively, and they proved that what Chen Dong and Chen Lei said was true. For a time, the old man couldn't help but go silent. He noticed the numerous gazes that swept over from the surroundings now, and he vaguely realized that he might have really done something absurd earlier. Suddenly, a flash of enlightenment appeared in the old man's mind, and he looked at Duan Lingtian as he asked with a complicated gaze. Did I fall into an illusory realm created by you? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded and didn't deny it. But I clearly didn't sense the aura or fluctuation of inscriptions and inscription formations. The old man frowned. Even though he wasn't an inscription master, yet he felt he was capable of easily sensing the aura and fluctuation of inscriptions and inscription formations. I didn't utilize inscriptions or inscription formations. Duan Lingtian shook his head. This is an ability I possess. As for what ability it isn't convenient for me to tell Senior. The old man sighed when he heard this, then he turned around and left slightly dejectedly, and he vanished within the Chen clan estate in the blink of an eye. Brother Lingtian, how about having a seat in my Chen clan estate? Meanwhile, Chen Dong looked at Duan Lingtian and made an invitation. Obviously, he didn't forget what he had said to Duan Lingtian earlier. 848. Chapter 849, The Furious Chen En. All right. Duan Lingtian had a rather good impression of Chen Dong's frank openness, and he directly agreed. Patriarch Yi, please pass on what happened here to little Zan, besides that, I might have to come disturb the Yi clan for some time later. Duan Lingtian looked at Yi Ting and smiled lightly. This time, Patriarch Yi probably won't ask me to get out of your Yi clan, right? The surrounding crowd of spectators were flabbergasted when they heard this. The patriarch of the Yi clan, Yi Ting, had once asked Duan Lingtian to leave his Yi clan. Has Yi Ting gone mad? Exactly. You can't find a guest like this even if you searched for one, yet he actually asked Duan Lingtian to leave. Instantly, many people looked at Yi Ting with a strange expression. Never had they imagined that Yi Ting had once treated Duan Lingtian in the way. Fortunately, Duan Lingtian disregarded past grudges, otherwise, could the Yi clan still exist? No, of course not. Yi Ting hurriedly shook his head with a bitter smile. If he knew beforehand that Duan Lingtian possessed such a formidable strength, then he wouldn't dare treat Duan Lingtian like that, no matter how brave he was. When he thought of it now, he still couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. If it wasn't for the good relationship between Duan Lingtian and his daughter, he would probably be unable to escape calamity. Brother Lingtian, if you don't mind, you can stay in our Chen clan for as long as you like. How about it? Chen Dong's eyes lit up when he heard Duan Lingtian wanted to stay in Drift Cloud Town for a period of time, and he took the initiative to invite Duan Lingtian to stay at the Chen clan. Yi Ting's face sank when he heard Chen Dong's invitation, yet he didn't dare say anything. He couldn't determine where Duan Lingtian went. If Duan Lingtian really wanted to stay in the Chen clan, then he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Now, he only hoped that Duan Lingtian would give face to his daughter and return to the Yi clan to stay for a period of time. In that way, the status of the Yi clan in Drift Cloud Town would rise along with this. As the patriarch of a clan, he had many things to consider. Thank you, Patriarch Chen, for your good intentions. But Patriarch Yi's daughter is my good friend, and I've already promised her that so long as I don't leave Drift Cloud Town, I'd stay in the Yi clan, said Duan Lingtian to Chen Dong. That's too bad, Chen Dong sighed, and then he called out. Brother Lingtian, please come in. When he saw Duan Lingtian and Chen Dong descend down from the sky to enter the Chen clan estate, the expression of Chen and who walked amongst the members of the Chen clan became even darker. Duan Lingtian, if you have the balls then keep staying in Drift Cloud Town. I'll surely make Big Brother's master teach you a lesson once Big Brother returns. Chen An's expression was cold and detached as fierce lightly flickered in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth were suffused with a gloomy smile. Yi Ting heaved a sigh of relief, and he revealed a happy smile. Congratulations, Patriarch Yi. From today onward, your Yi clan isn't the same any longer. Many people congratulated. Patriarch Yi, I'm sorry about the last time. We really needed that batch of goods urgently, how about this? I'll rush out another batch of goods during this period of time and give it to your Yi clan for half price. Another person held a flattering smile as he spoke to Yi Ting. Boss Hu, if it's half price, then wouldn't your merchant group suffer a great loss? The cost of that batch of goods isn't just half its price, right? Yi Ting looked at the person that spoke with great shock. Hee, Patriarch Yi, we straightforward people don't have to resort to insinuations. It's fine even if I give you that batch of goods for free. But you have to introduce me to that young brother. The latter laughed slyly as he spoke. In the audience hall of the Chen clan estate. Duan Lingtian sat at the head seat, and beneath him was the Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong, and the third elder, Chen Lei. Brother Lingtian, may I know where you're from? Chen Dong asked curiously. Patriarch Chen, didn't I tell you before, even if I tell you my origins, you wouldn't know. Duan Lingtian shook his head and said, but since you really want to know, then it's fine to tell you, I'm from the Darken Dynasty. Darken Dynasty? Chen Dong and Chen Lei looked at each other and saw a perplexed expression in each other's eyes. Obviously, they'd never heard of such a place. Chen Dong laughed embarrassedly and asked, then can Brother Lingtian tell me what your relationship is with the Yi clan? Chen Dong was still slightly unable to accept the fact that Duan Lingtian had helped the Yi clan to cause trouble in his Chen clan today. Where did this little freak come from? And why does he just happen to want to help the Yi clan? I owe the Yi clan's young miss a favor. Duan Lingtian replied extremely directly, and then he added. This favor can't be returned in my entire lifetime. Originally, when he heard Duan Lingtian say he owed the Yi clan's young miss a favor, Chen Dong had heaved a sigh of relief as he felt Duan Lingtian had already returned the favor with his actions earlier. But what Duan Lingtian said after caused Chen Dong to be unable to help but laugh bitterly. That Yi clan's young miss is really fortunate. She actually made Brother Lingtian owe her such a great favor. It's not necessarily good fortune. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled warmly. She's very kind-hearted. If it wasn't for her, it's very likely that I'd have perished already. Duan Lingtian's words caused Chen Dong and Chen Lei to be shocked to the point their faces went pale. According to what Duan Lingtian said, that Yi clan's young miss had actually saved his life. No wonder he said he can't return it in his entire lifetime. So it's a life-saving grace. Brother Lingtian, may I ask how the Yi clan's young miss saved you? Chen Lei asked curiously. Chen Dong looked at Duan Lingtian as well. He was obviously curious as well. He knew the Yi clan's young miss, and she was a little girl that hadn't even stepped into the void-prying stage. Logically speaking, that little strength of hers was utterly incapable of helping Duan Lingtian, let alone saving Duan Lingtian. When I was cultivating some time ago, my origin energy moved in the wrong direction and caused me to suffer from chi deviation. In the end, I fainted outside Drift Cloud Town, and it was she who brought me back to the Yi clan. I was in deep slumber for an entire 18 days before waking up today. If it wasn't for her, then perhaps I would have already been eaten by the wild beasts, fierce beasts, or even demon beasts there. When Duan Lingtian mentioned Yi Zan, his smile was warm as he'd completely taken that kind-hearted young woman as his own younger sister. Actually, he still felt a lingering fear when he woke up today. Fortunately, he'd encountered such a kind-hearted young woman. If it was another person with malicious intentions, then the person would probably have killed him for the sake of the spatial ring on his hand. The spatial ring on his hand had ownership established upon it by him dripping blood on it. Unless he himself removed the ownership or he died, otherwise others would be unable to establish ownership of the spatial ring. It was precisely because of this that he felt gratitude from the bottom of his heart towards the kind-hearted young woman, Yi Zan. Chen Dong and Chen Lei looked at each other and laughed bitterly. Never had they imagined that the sequence of events would be like that. They asked themselves, if they were to encounter Duan Lingtian who'd fainted, then under the circumstances that they didn't know Duan Lingtian, they would probably have taken Duan Lingtian's spatial ring before killing Duan Lingtian. After all, it was a windfall that came free. The Yi clan's young miss is really kind-hearted, that little bastard of my clan is indeed unworthy of her. Chen Dong sighed. When he heard Chen Dong mention that good-for-nothing son of his, Duan Lingtian seemed to have recalled something, and his face sank slightly. Patriarch Chen, I admire how you conduct yourself, but I cannot agree with you in terms of how you teach our son. I heard that your son commits all sorts of atrocities in Drift Cloud Town. And there's many young women from good families that have committed suicide or harmed themselves because of him. As he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian emitted dense killing intent. He didn't feel he was a sage nor did he think of saving the world, but the actions of that good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan had violated his bottom line. Brother Lingtian, you're right, I didn't teach my son properly. Chen Dong laughed bitterly. He naturally knew clearly about all those things his son had done, and he'd educated Chen on numerous occasions and had broken countless amounts of canes because of this. But his son wouldn't repent, and he gradually couldn't be bothered anymore. Otherwise, what else could he do? Kill his own son with his own two hands. Patriarch Chen, out of respect to you, I won't interfere with what happened in the past, but from today onward, if I hear that your son commits such deeds that cause widespread indignation and discontent, then don't blame me for not showing mercy. As Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he suddenly stood up. Presently, he already didn't have the mood to continue staying at the Chen clan. Patriarch Chen, Third Elder Chen, farewell. Duan Lingtian bid his farewell to Chen Dong and Chen Lei before leaving directly. When Chen Dong and Chen Lei returned to their senses, Duan Lingtian had already left the Chen clan audience hall and vanished before their eyes. Ha 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 ha, unexpectedly, Chen Dong started laughing after Duan Lingtian left. Patriarch, you, Chen Lei was stunned. He said he wants to kill you son, yet you're still able to laugh about it. From today onwards, let me see if that little bastard still dares act willfully. Chen Dong muttered to himself before directly leaving the audience hall to go look for his youngest son. The reason that younger son of his was so audacious during these past few years was none other than because he relied on the power of the Chen clan. The Chen clan was the #1 clan in Drift Cloud Town, so there was utterly no one that dared offend the Chen clan. Now, there was someone that wasn't afraid of the Chen clan who threatened his son, and it allowed him to see hope. He was unable to manage his son, but there was finally someone who could. After he entered the courtyard Chen En lived in, he berated Chen En who'd just returned before passing on Duan Lingtian's words to Chen En. Before Chen En returned to his senses, Chen Dong had already left with a happy mood. Duan Lingtian, Chen An's expression was extremely unsightly, and he smashed the stone table in the courtyard with a raise of his hand before gnashing his teeth and saying, "Not only did you interfere with my marriage with Yi Zan, you actually dare come discipline me. I'll surely kill you, surely." Chen An's eyes were filled with a gloomy cold light as he gnashed his teeth and spoke hatefully. Yi Clan Estate. Young Master Duan, the patriarch and elders have been waiting, please come in. Duan Lingtian had just arrived at the entrance when a Yi Clan disciple greeted him respectfully and reverently. Thank you, young Master Duan. Duan Lingtian had only just entered when he heard a wave of orderly and deafening sounds, and when he raised his head to look, he noticed Yi Ting had actually brought a group of people to bow and thank him in unison. Shockingly, Yi Zan was amongst them. At this moment, Yi Zan's tightly knit brows had completely eased up, and she'd recovered her lively nature. 849 Chapter 850, 5-Element Sect. Patriarch Yi, what are you? Duan Lingtian was stunned by the scene before him. Most of the people by Yi Ting's side were old people, and in terms of age, they were already capable of being his grandfather. Yet now, these old men were bowing to him, and it caused him to feel slightly uneasy. Brother Duan, thank you for what you did for our Yi clan. From today onward, you're the most respected guest of our Yi clan. If there's anything that you need, our Yi clan will surely devote every effort to it. Yi Ting spoke with a serious expression. Patriarch Yi, there's no need to act in this way. Duan Lingtian shook his head and then said with a frown, moreover, I don't like these things, ask all of them to disperse. Little Zan, let's go back. Duan Lingtian spoke as he called out to Yi Zan and left directly. For a time, only Yi Ting and the others remained with bitter smiles on their faces. The group of Yi clan elders looked at Duan Lingtian's figure that was disappearing into the distance with expressions filled with respect. They'd heard what happened in the Chen clan estate from the patriarch, and they knew that this violet-clothed young man being willing to stay in their Yi clan was the fortune of their entire Yi clan. Even though this might not last for long. Big brother Duan, I've heard everything from my father, you're really amazing. On the way, Yi Zan looked at Duan Lingtian with an expression of admiration, and then she sighed. If only I was as formidable as you are, then I would be able to help my father protect the Yi clan. Silly girl, you're only so young. Duan Lingtian rubbed Yi Zan's small head affectionately and smiled. If you really want to cultivate, then big brother Duan will pass down a cultivation method to you. Really? Yi Zan's eyes lit up when she heard this. As far as she was concerned, her big brother Duan's strength was so strong, so a cultivation method he took out would surely be something their Yi clan's cultivation method was unable to compare to. Of course. Duan Lingtian nodded with a smile and seemed as if he was appeasing a child. Of course, Yi Zan was only a young woman at the age of 16 or 17, so she was indeed no different than a child in his eyes. There was no lack of cultivation methods in Duan Lingtian's memories. Any random cultivation method left behind by the rebirth martial emperor wasn't something the Yi clan's cultivation method could compare to. Besides that, he was also capable of passing down suitable martial skills to Yi Zan. As for medicinal pills and spirit weapons, he didn't lack them at all and could casually refine them. To a certain extent, Yi Zan had saved his life, and was a benefactor of his. So, he would try his best to repay this great favor. Of course, he liked Yi Zan very much as well, and he'd completely taken Yi Zan to be his own younger sister. How nice would it be if father and mother give birth to another younger brother or sister for me? Duan Lingtian sighed. In his precious life, he was an orphan with no father nor mother, let alone brothers and sisters. He only had a group of comrades that went through life and death with him. Moreover, all of them had stayed forever in the battlefield later on. This was also the most important reason why he chose to retire at that time. In his previous life, he greatly hoped to possess a warm family, yet it was bound to be wishful thinking. So to him, being able to arrive in this world was undoubtedly a gift given to him by the heavens, and in this world, he had a father, a mother, and people that he cared about. If his father and mother were able to make a younger brother or sister for him, then it would undoubtedly make it even more perfect. Duan Lingtian temporarily resided in the Yi clan because he still didn't understand the situation in Drift Cloud Town. He didn't know if he would encounter experts that he was unable to deal with and be killed directly as soon as he left the town. He wasn't alone in this world any longer, so he didn't dare take the risk. In the following days, Duan Lingtian obtained a certain level of understanding towards the eastern area of the northern desert he resided in now from Yi Zan. Firstly, there were a total of 3 great powers in this eastern area of the northern desert. Of course, in the entire foreign lands, these 3 great powers could only be considered to be third-rate powers. Because they were powers that possessed similar strengths as the Skywolf Fort, Blade Sect, Empyrean Temple, and Emotion Severing Sect in the southern area of the northern desert. The 3 great powers were respectively the 5-Element Sect, Crimson Moon Sect, and Flying Sand Sect. I heard the Chen clan's eldest young master, Chen Wei, had joined the 5-Element Sect long ago. Yi Zan said. Everyone would raise their thumbs when speaking about Chen Wei in our Drift Cloud Town, but so long as his younger brother Chen An is mentioned, everyone would show contempt instead. As she finished speaking, Yi Zan wrinkled her cute little nose as Chen An was the good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan that she was almost forced to marry. Chen Wei, 5-Element Sect. Duan Lingtian's brows raised as he never imagined that Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong, had such a promising son that was a complete opposite of Chen An. Since the 5-Element Sect was one of the 3 great powers of the eastern area of the northern desert, their recruitment of disciples was probably extremely harsh. Without a certain level of natural talent and comprehension ability, it would be impossible for one to join the sect. Looks like it's as the saying goes, the dragon gave birth to 9 sons, and every single one is different. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. Right, big brother Duan, I heard about something when I went out yesterday. Yi Zan looked at Duan Lingtian and her beautiful face had slight worry on it. What? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be slightly curious when he saw Yi Zan's expression. I heard someone say that in another few days, members of the Five-Element sect will reside in our Drift Cloud Town on their way, and they seem to have come for the sake of recruiting void interpretation stage martial artists below the age of 40. When she spoke up to hear, Yi Zan's brows knit together. Besides Chen Wei who'd already joined the Five-Element sect, there's probably not a second person who's a void interpretation stage martial artist below the age of 40 in a tiny place like our Drift Cloud Town. So, I guess that Chen Wei is amongst the members of the Five-Element sect, and he's probably using this opportunity to visit his family. Big brother Duan, why don't you leave the city and lie low for the next few days, as I'm afraid Chen Wei will look for trouble with you. As she finished speaking, Yi Zan had a worried expression. The Five-Element sect, it's recruiting martial artists at the void interpretation stage that are below the age of 40. Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Yi Zan, and then a flash of enlightenment appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind, causing him to be slightly excited. Could it be that the Five-Element sect knows of the treasure vault left behind by the martial emperor stage expert? Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? Duan Lingtian's gaze lit up, and he became more and more sure. If it wasn't for this, would the Five-Element sect send people to recruit disciples from outside? Moreover, there was a special requirement. Below the age of 40. Void interpretation stage martial artist. This was no different than the requirement of the Skywolf Fort, Blade Sect, Empyrean Temple, and Emotion Severing Sect when they recruited disciples at the end of the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. Looks like this is a chance for me. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as he thought in his heart. During these few days in the Drift Cloud Town's Yi clan, he was thinking about how to leave this place while being certain that he would arrive at the Blade Sect safely to join Feng Tianwu and the others. He believed that those friends of him would surely be extremely worried about him since he'd vanished suddenly. Now, he finally had a chance. The Five-Element sect was his chance. The Five-Element sect is obviously making preparations for the treasure vault left behind by that martial emperor stage expert. So long as I join the Five-Element sect temporarily, I'll surely be able to head to that treasure vault. In that way, I'll be able to encounter Tian Wu, Su Li, Big Brother Zhang, and the others in the Blade sect. Duan Lingtian made a decision in his heart. I presume that the Five-Element sect ought to not refuse my entrance. This was something Duan Lingtian was extremely confident of. Moreover, it was currently the time the Five-Element sect desperately required geniuses, and it would utterly not refuse him from joining. Big brother Duan, did you hear what I said? Yi Zan couldn't help but laugh bitterly when she saw Duan Lingtian in a trance, and she stretched out her hand to shake Duan Lingtian's arm before Duan Lingtian finally returned to his senses. Little Zan, what's wrong? Duan Lingtian returned to his senses and asked. Big brother Duan, go lie low for the next few days. Chen Wei has an extremely good relationship with that good-for-nothing younger brother of his. If he really returns to the Chen clan, then he'll surely look for trouble with you. Yi Zan repeated her words once more, and her beautiful face was filled with an anxious expression. Chen Wei, is he very strong? Duan Lingtian laughed confidently. Little Zan, don't forget that even the Chen clan's supreme elder lost at my hands. Could it be that Chen Wei is even stronger than the Chen clan's supreme elder? Big brother Duan, Chen Wei might not be a match for you, but since the Five-Element sect has come to recruit disciples, there's surely be seniors of the sect following along with Chen Wei. I heard that the weakest elder in the Five-Element sect is in existence at the void transformation stage. Yi Xian said with a worried expression, even though they aren't members of the Chen clan, yet Chen Wei is a member of the Five-Element sect. If Chen Wei asks them to assist him, then I presume they wouldn't refuse. She was most worried about this. Even though Chen Wei's strength wasn't bad, it couldn't compare to the Chen clan's supreme elder, let alone be a match for her big brother Duan. But what about the seniors of the sect that came along with Chen Wei? Even though she was only the young miss of the Yi clan in the tiny Drift Cloud Town, the reputation of the Five-Element sect reverberated like thunder in her ears, and it was an existence that the Yi clan had to look up to. Don't worry, I understand. Duan Lingtian was naturally able to discern that Yi Zan's concern came from the heart and warmth couldn't help but arise in his heart, and then he said with a smile, Little Zan, I never imagined that your thoughts are so meticulous at such a young age. What plans do you have for yourself in the future? I intend to stay by my father's side forever and help him take care of the Yi clan. Yi Zan spoke seriously. Could it be that you've never thought about anything else? For example, leaving Drift Cloud Town and joining one of the three great powers to properly experience the outside world? Asked Duan Lingtian. Big Brother Duan, do you think that it's so easy to join the three great powers? Yi Zan laughed bitterly. 2 years ago, the Crimson Moon sect had once sent people to widely recruit disciples, and they passed by our Drift Cloud town on the way and held a test, but I was eliminated in the first round of the test. Little Zan, believe your big brother Duan, the current you is different from the past you. Duan Lingtian smiled. During these few days he stayed at the Yi clan, besides passing down some cultivation methods and martial skills to Yi Zan. Duan Lingtian has utilized gentle origin energy combined with spiritual force to fuse into Yi Zan's body and helped her cleanse the impurities in her body on many occasions. It was a method exclusive to the Rebirth Martial Emperor and was recorded within the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memories, and even though it was inferior to the effects of the 10,000-year stalactite milk, it wasn't bad either. Presently, Yi Zan's natural talent had already undergone a tremendous change. 850. Chapter 851, Chen Wei. Big Brother Duan, what do you mean by this? Yi Zan had a perplexed expression. You'll know in a few days. Duan Lingtian smiled mysteriously. Even though it was the first time he'd used that method to help another wash away their impurities, he could be certain that it was effective. Because it was a unique technique the Rebirth Martial Emperor had obtained by luck during his second lifetime, and it was only effective towards people who were below the age of 18 and whose meridians, shape hadn't become completely finalized. Moreover, it required origin energy and spiritual force at the void interpretation stage to be successfully executed. If it wasn't for him encountering Yi Zan, Duan Lingtian wouldn't know that such a thing existed in the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, so it could be of use to Yi Zan now. Of course, the exact effects of the cleansing of the impurities in her body was something Yi Zan would only be able to notice after a few more days. Big Brother Duan, don't keep me in suspense and tell me quickly. Yi Zan shook Duan Lingtian's arm and acted like a spoiled child. Presently, it wasn't just Duan Lingtian who'd taken her to be his own younger sister, even she'd taken Duan Lingtian to be her own older brother, an older brother that she could trust entirely. You little girl, you might not believe me even if I tell you now. You'll naturally notice it in another few more days. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. All right, then I'll wait a few more days. Yi Zan let go of Duan Lingtian's arm and nodded obediently, and then she said, Big Brother Duan, it's fine if you don't go hide during the next few days, but if that Chen Wei brings along the seniors of his five-element sect to our Yi clan, then you must hide yourself and not come out. You little girl, you don't have to care so much about my business, quickly go cultivate. I'm going to check your improvement in another few days, said Duan Lingtian with a smile, and as he finished speaking, he urged Yi Zan to enter her room and cultivate. Okay. Yi Zan playfully spat out her tongue before running back to her room to cultivate, yet she forgot to close her room's door. This little girl. Duan Lingtian revealed tender affection on his face as he helped Yi Zan close her room's door, and then he muttered to himself. Perhaps I can consider taking Yi Zan to the five-element sect with me. Based on Duan Lingtian's tone, it seemed as if bringing Yi Zan along to the five-element sect was an extremely simple thing, and someone who didn't know any better might think that he owned the five-element sect. I ought to go cultivate as well. I feel that I'm just a little bit more away from breaking through to the 5th level of the void interpretation stage. Once I break through, my strength will improve once again. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart as he directly returned to his room before taking out the wind concept fragment and holding it in his hand, and he comprehended wind concept as he cultivated. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, Sword Dragon Form. Time silently passed by, and 3 days of time passed in the blink of an eye. Chen Clan Estate. On this day, the Chen clan was extremely bustling and was decorated with lanterns and colorful silk, and it seemed as if it was holding a celebration. The entrance to the Chen clan was covered by a long red-colored carpet at dawn, and it covered the path all the way until the entrance to the Chen clan audience hall. At the sides of the red carpet stood a servant girl after every short period of distance. Not long after, the Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong, brought along his younger son, Chenin, and the group of elders to walk out of the Chen clan estate in a formidable array, and they stood at the entrance while seeming to be waiting for something. Father, it's Senior K and Big Brother. Suddenly, the sharp gaze of Chenin lit up, and he looked ahead as he spoke with pleasant surprise. As he spoke, Chenin moved over to welcome the 2 people that were walking over from afar. One was a robust old man with a kind countenance, and the other was a young man around the age of 35. Senior K, Chen An took a few steps forward and stood respectfully at the other side of the old man before walking by the old man's side while speaking with an extremely humble tone, and he didn't possess the slightest bit of the sharp edge he usually possessed. "You're Chen Wei's younger brother, Chen An." The old man's muddy eyes lit up with a trace of a glow as he asked amiably. "Senior K, I am him." Chen An was obviously extremely happy that the old man could remember him. "I remember that when I came to your Chen clan all those years ago, you were only 7 or 8, right?" In the blink of an eye, the little child from all those years ago has already grown into a man. The old man chuckled. "Chen Wei, I remember that when I first came to your Chen clan all those years ago, it was precisely the time you took me as your master. It seems to be 18 years ago, right?" The old man looked at the young man by his side, Chen An's older brother, Chen Wei, as he asked. Chen Wei had a tall figure and a pair of bright and penetrating eyes, and he smiled lightly and nodded when he heard the old man. "Yes, master, it has been 18 years, at that time, I was 17 and little An was 7. Time is merciless, in the blink of an eye, 18 years have passed already. But unfortunately, during these 18 years, our wood peak is still like before and is being suppressed by the other 3 peaks to the point of being unable to catch a breath." The old man sighed. "Now, I only hope that I can see the wood peak rise up once again before I die. In that way, I won't have any other regrets." "Its disciple who is useless," said Chen Wei hastily. "It's not your fault, since 20 years ago when the peak master went into closed-door cultivation because of his heavy injury, our wood peak had already started its decline. I only hate the other 3 peaks for going too far and seizing the opportunity that the peak master was in closed-door cultivation to resort to both bribing and threats to steal away all the outstanding disciples of our wood peak, causing wood peak to have no more useful people in the younger generation." The old man's face flushed red when he spoke up to hear, and he seemed to be slightly agitated. "Master, cool down. I believe that our wood peak will surely be able to stand up once again. Master, I'll surely cultivate more painstakingly in the future and not lose face for the wood peak." Chen Wei spoke seriously. "All right, you seldom return to your home, so let's not speak about these unhappy things." The old man looked at the group of people that were waiting ahead and the red carpet on the ground, and he couldn't help but sigh. "Didn't I ask you to tell your father not to make it so extravagant? You ought to know that master doesn't care about all this. So long as your family is fine and you're able to be at ease while you cultivate in the sect, then master is satisfied. Master, it's rare for you to make a trip here, so don't care about these little details." Chen Wei said with a light smile. "Moreover, my father did this because he respects you." "Yes, Senior K, you've fostered my older brother into a genius, so our Chen clan ought to welcome you with the highest courtesy." Chen An spoke out as well. All right, all right." The old man's face was covered in a smile as he arrived before the Chen clan estate's entrance under the escort of Chen Wei and Chen An. Elder K, comma." Instantly, all the higher-ups of the Chen clan led by the patriarch, Chen Song, bowed towards the old man with humble expressions. "We're all family, there's no need to be courteous." The old man's eyes narrowed as he spoke with a grin on his face. "Family." The Chen clan higher-ups instantly beamed with joy, as being taken to be family by an elder of the 5-element sect wasn't a treatment that anyone could obtain. "Elder K, please come in. We've already prepared a feast to celebrate your arrival." Chen Dong personally greeted the old man into the Chen clan estate in a respectful manner. Eldest young master, long time no see. Your cultivation has improved again, right?" The group of Chen clan elders greeted Chen Wei fervently. They felt heartfelt respect towards Chen Wei, who was the #1 expert in the Chen clan's younger generation and was a disciple of the 5-element sect. "Greeting, elders." Chen Wei smiled lightly as he replied, and he didn't be the slightest bit disrespectful to these elders that had fought for the Chen clan for most of their lifetime just because he was a disciple of the 5-element sect. "Eldest young master, please come in." The Chen clan elders that stood at the entrance of the estate split open a path for Chen Wei to enter. "Elders, all of you are seniors to me, so all of you should enter first. If all of you don't enter, then I won't enter the clan today." Chen Wei seemed to be accustomed to a scene like this, and he directly utilized his trump card. Instantly, the group of Chen clan elders laughed bitterly as they walked into the Chen clan estate, yet a pleased expression was contained between their brows, as they were pleased towards Chen Wei, who was the eldest young master of their Chen clan. Chen Wei and Chen An walked side by side behind the group of Chen clan elders, and they walked into the Chen clan estate. "Brother, Suddenly, Chen looked at Chen Wei, and his face suddenly went grim as his eyes flickered with a fierce light. You must take revenge for me. I won't continue living if you don't help me. Chen Wei frowned as his face sank. What exactly happened? Tell me clearly. Brother, a few days ago, I saw a young man from outside the town forcefully seized a local girl on the streets, and I couldn't bear to see it, so I wanted to save the young girl, but who knew that his strength was formidable and blasted me flying with a single palm, causing me to be knocked unconscious. Chen spoke with a sorrowful expression. There's someone in Drift Cloud Town that our Chen clan can't take care of. Chen Wei's face sank slightly as he asked. Brother, that person said he'd a disciple of the Five-Element sect's Wood Peak, so father and the elders didn't dare do anything to him. After all, you're at the Five-Element sect's Wood Peak as well. Father and the elders were afraid it would cause trouble for you, so they didn't do anything to him. When Chen spoke up to hear, he said hatefully, this wasn't all, never had I imagined that he actually forcefully took the fiancé I had a marriage agreement with. Brother, I hate him so much, I hate him so much. As he finished speaking, Chen An's eyes were filled with frightful cold lights that seemed ready to swallow up his enemies. He said he's a disciple of our Five-Element sect's Wood Peak. Did he say it himself? Chen Wei stopped moving and asked with a low voice. Yes, Chen nodded, and then he said with a trembling voice. He said he's a superior disciple of the Five-Element sect and seizing my fiancé is because he thinks highly of me, and it's my good fortune. Brother, he's too insulting. Did he say what his name was? Chen Wei's eyes were filled with extreme coldness as he asked with a cold voice. He said he's called Duan Lingtian. Chen Wei spoke hatefully. Duan Lingtian, are you sure he's called Duan Lingtian? Chen Wei asked with a frown. Yes, Chen nodded. I clearly remember every single word and every single insult he spoke to me, it's absolutely correct. Little N, you and father might have been deceived by him. Our Wood Peak doesn't have a disciple called Duan Lingtian. Chen Wei's voice became even colder. What? Chen An's face went pale. Then doesn't that mean he's an imposter? Brother, you must take revenge for me, take revenge for me. Do you know where he is now? Chen Wei's eyes flickered with cold lights as he asked. He wouldn't easily let off a person that impersonated a Five-Element sect disciple, especially one that impersonated a Wood Peak disciple to swagger about and deceive others. 851 Chapter 852, Chen An's Scheme. I do. Chen nodded fiercely as he said in a grim voice, after he forcefully took the fiancé I'd made a marriage agreement with and forced the members of my fiancé's clan to come to our Chen clan to break off the engagement, he's always been staying at my fiancé's clan. A trace of a cold light flickered faintly in the depths of Chen An's gaze. But unfortunately, Chen Wei didn't notice this. What? Chen Wei's expression became even more gloomy when he heard Chen An. As far as he was concerned, if it wasn't for that fellow who impersonated a disciple of his Five-Element sect's Wood sect and used the power of the Five-Element sect to seize his younger brother's fiancé, then he would perhaps be able to attend his younger brother's wedding when he returned this time. But now, not only did he not get to attend the wedding, his younger brother's fiancé was taken away. Since he was young, he'd always doted upon his younger brother the most, and he would give the best to his younger brother. Now, how could he endure it when he heard his younger brother had suffered such a humiliation? Big brother, my fiancé is the Yi clan's young miss, Yi Zan. That fellow is in the Yi clan right now, you must take revenge for me. Chen revealed a sorrowful expression as he added fuel to the fire, and then he stretched out his hand to pull on Chen Wei's arm before walking out in a hurry. Little N, I know you're extremely angry, and Big Brother is extremely angry as well. How about this? I'll go notify father and master before following you to the Yi clan. No matter what, master rarely comes to our Chen clan, and I can't leave him aside as soon as I return. Chen Wei stopped moving and spoke to Chen An. But how could Chen An allow him to see his father? Once he met his father, wouldn't all the lies he'd said earlier be unraveled instantaneously? Brother, I've already endured it for a very long time, and I don't want to continue enduring it. If you don't want to take revenge for me, then I'll go myself. Chen An's eyes flickered with a strand of a cunning bright light, and then he roared in a low voice before letting go of Chen Wei's arm and seemed to transform into a gust of wind that charged out of the Chen clan. Little N, Chen Wei's face went grim, and he who was worried about the safety of his younger brother hurriedly chased after Chen An. With his speed, he caught up to Chen An not long after he left the entrance of the Chen clan. I'll go with you. It just happens that I want to see that person that dares impersonate a disciple of our Five-Element sect's Wood Peak to seize your fiancé. Because of Chen An's pitiful narration earlier, his heart was filled with a ball of flames since long ago, and he wished for nothing more than to arrive at the Yi clan right away and expose that person's true face. It wasn't just that, he also wanted to cripple that person's cultivation and bring him back to the five-element sect's wood peak. As far as he was concerned, that person had actually dared to impersonate a disciple of the wood peak to commit deeds that caused widespread indignation and discontent, so that person must be personally judged by the enforcement elders of the wood peak. Only in this way would he be able to completely clean the name of the wood peak. Brother, the entire Yi clan have been suppressed by that Duan Lingtian with his martial strength, causing them to do everything he tells them, so when we go over, the members of the Yi clan will surely drive us out. They have no other choice but to act in that way, so you must not blame them. Chen An spoke to Chen Wei with a heavy expression, yet the depths of his eyes contained slight complacency. What? Chen Wei was slightly shocked when he heard this. The members of the Yi clan were suppressed by his martial strength. Didn't you say that Duan Lingtian is only a young man? According to my knowledge, the Yi clan's former patriarch is in existence at the third level of the void interpretation stage. Could it be that even the Yi clan's former patriarch is unable to deal with him? Chen An's expression went imperceptibly grim before recovering, and then he sighed. Brother, there's something you don't know, the Yi clan's former patriarch passed away 3 years ago. So that's how it is. Chen Wei nodded, and then he couldn't help but sigh. I remember when I returned 4 years ago, I'd once visited the Yi clan's former patriarch. At that time, I didn't notice anything wrong with him. How did he pass away so quickly? It's truly a pity. Chen An broke out in cold sweat in his heart as he continued. I heard he encountered a formidable enemy outside and was heavily injured, causing a hidden injury to be left behind. After that, he couldn't hold on any longer and passed away. Brother, you'd already broken through to the void interpretation stage when you returned 4 years ago. What's your cultivation now? Chen An seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but ask. I just broke through to the 4th level of the void interpretation stage last month, said Chen Wei. Chen An nodded, yet he said in his heart, brother is only at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage now, and he's surely not a match for that Duan Lingtian, but I never thought that big brother would be able to do anything to that Duan Lingtian. After all, Duan Lingtian is an existence that's even capable of defeating the Supreme Elder. Chen An's thoughts were extremely simply. He wanted to make Duan Lingtian injure his older brother, causing his older brother's master, Ke Zheng, the elder of the five-element sect's wood peak who was a formidable existence at the void transformation stage to be infuriated. As far as he was concerned, with how much that Senior Ke doted on his older brother, Senior Ke would surely not let the matter go after his older brother was heavily injured by Duan Lingtian. Once Senior Ke is enraged, he'll surely kill that Duan Lingtian. In this way, the hatred in my heart will be resolved. Duan Lingtian, not only did you destroy the marriage agreement between me and Yi Zan, you actually want to interfere in my business. I'll make you die a graveless death. At this moment, Chen An was extremely satisfied of his scheme. As far as he was concerned, his scheme was flawless. After a short moment, Chen Wei and Chen An arrived before the entrance to the Yi clan estate, and the expression of the two disciples that guarded the entrance went grim when they saw Chen An. Brother, let's go in. Chen An completely disregarded these two Yi clan disciples and directly moved to trespass into the Yi clan estate. Second young Master Chen. The two Yi clan disciples stopped Chen An, and their expressions changed indeterminately. They felt slightly curious. Wasn't the marriage agreement between this good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan and our Yi clan's young miss broken off? What's this good-for-nothing young master coming to our Yi clan for? Moreover, he's coming to look for trouble and obviously came with ill intent. Could it be that he isn't afraid of young Master Duan teaching him a lesson? Right when the two Yi clan disciples had a myriad of thoughts in their minds, Chen An made a move. Bang, bang, 2 palms slapped out, one for each of them, and he directly blasted the two Yi clan disciples flying, causing them to collide with the pillar at the side of the entrance and lose consciousness. Little N. The scene before him occurred suddenly, and Chen Wei only recovered from his shock after Chen An finished knocking the two Yi clan disciples out, causing him to be unable to help but frown. What are you doing? Brother, don't worry, I've only knocked them out. The Yi clan members have all been coerced by that Duan Lingtian now. If I don't knock them out, then they'll surely not dare allow us to enter. Chen An explained. Chen Wei nodded, even though he kept having the feeling that something was amiss, yet he didn't think any further. Of course, it was also because he'd never doubted his younger brother, nor did he ever think that his younger brother would deceive him. Chen Wei and Chen An trespassed all the way into the Yi clan and arrived outside the Yi clan's audience hall. All the Yi clan disciples on the way that came to question Chen An were injured successively by Chen An, and it instantly drew the rage of the comparatively stronger Yi clan disciples, causing the group of Yi clan disciples to make a move in unison. Meanwhile, Chen An couldn't withstand it any longer. Bang! Chen Wei took a stride forward, his robes fluttering without the wind as a vast and enormous energy gushed out from his body to directly blast the group of Yi clan disciples flying. The group of Yi clan disciples fell to the ground and emitted muffled groans, yet all of them didn't emit a single shrill cry. Perhaps, as far as they were concerned, letting out a shrill cry before the good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan was an extremely great humiliation, and they were unable to accept a humiliation like that. Quickly, go get the patriarch. I'll go get the grand elder. I'll go get the second elder. Instantly, besides a portion of Yi clan disciples that stared fiercely at Chen Wei and Chen An, some Yi clan disciples flew off to go notify the patriarch and elders. In next to no time, the Yi clan's patriarch, Yi Ting, and the group of elders converged together and came over in a formidable array. Patriarch, grand elder, second elder, the Yi clan disciples that surrounded Chen Wei and Chen An opened up a path as they respectfully greeted Yi Ting and the others over. The expression of Yi Ting, who heard Chen Wei had come over to cause trouble, was extremely ominous, but when he walked into the crowd and saw Chen Wei, who stood by Chen An's side, his expression eased up slightly. I was wondering why second young master Chen would dare trespass into our Yi clan estate, so it turns out that eldest young master Chen has returned. Yi Ting glanced coldly and indifferently at Chen An before shooting his gaze at Chen Wei, and it seemed to contain slight fear mixed within. He wasn't afraid of the Chen clan's eldest young master, Chen Wei, but he couldn't help but be afraid of the five-element sect that stood behind Chen Wei. Moreover, he'd heard that not only had Chen Wei joined the five-element sect, he'd even taken an elder of the five-element sect as his master, and this was something Yi Ting had to fear. After all, even the weakest elder in the five-element sect was in existence at the void transformation stage. Merely the strength of a single existence like this was sufficient to annihilate his Yi clan. Patriarch Yi, Chen Wei nodded to Yi Ting. He didn't come to the Yi clan with his younger brother today for the sake of denouncing the Yi clan's crimes, and he'd instead come for the sake of looking for the person that impersonated a disciple of the five-element sect's would peak to seize his younger brother's fiancée. So, he was very courteous when facing Yi Ting. Eldest young master Chen, I wonder why you and your younger brother have come. Yi Ting asked indifferently. Our Yi clan seems to have no relationship with your Chen clan now, right? Patriarch Yi, I'm happy for my younger brother for being able to be engaged to your daughter, but no matter what the reason was, your actions of coming to my Chen clan to break off the engagement seems to be going a little too far, right? Said Chen Wei. Breaking off the engagement, Yi Ting came to a suddenly understanding when he heard Chen Wei. So eldest young master Chen has come because of this, but could it be that your father didn't tell you that this matter had already ended completely? When he spoke up to hear, Yi Ting looked at Chen An, and he kept having the feeling that something was off with the incident today. Chen Wei's reputation in Drift Cloud Town had always been extremely good. He was absolutely not a person that relied on his backing to bully others, nor was he an unreasonable person. But, his actions of coming to the Yi clan to denounce the Yi clan's crimes with Chen An today was truly slightly strange. HMPH. Chen Wei hadn't spoken when Chen An had already said angrily, Yi Ting, you brought that Duan Ling Tian to come to my Chen clan to break off the engagement and caused my Chen clan to lose face greatly, and you even forcefully tore me and little Zan apart. Could it be that you don't feel guilty in the slightest? As he finished speaking, Chen An had an agitated expression as tears streamed down from his face and dripped down to the ground. Yi Ting was stunned. The group of Yi clan elders were stunned. All the Yi clan disciples were stunned. What exactly is this Chen clan's second young master doing? 852 Chapter 853, Young Master Duan. Chen Wei's calm expression instantly became gloomy when he saw his younger brother was so sorrowful. He said with a low voice to Yi Ting, Patriarch Yi, since you were once considered to be the father-in-law of my younger brother, I won't make it difficult for you. But you must hand Duan Ling Tian over. Today, I, Chen Wei, will not only seek justice for my younger brother and Chen clan, I'll also seek justice for my five-element sect's would peak. Chen Wei's words were spoken clearly with a voice that was like a thunderclap. As he finished speaking, his face was suffused with ghastly rage. He was very rarely enraged, but when he saw his younger brother in such pain today and coupled with someone impersonating a disciple of his five-element sect's would peak, he was completely enraged. Seek justice for the five-element sect. Yi Ting's pupils constricted when he heard Chen Wei, and the other Yi clan elders and disciples had astounded expressions as well. How did Duan Lingtian get related to the five-element sect? Moreover, he seems to have committed something that caused indignation and discontent in the five-element sect. Eldest young Master Chen, have you mistaken something? How did Brother Duan become related to your five-element sect? Yi Ting asked with a frown. He kept having the feeling that something was amiss, yet he didn't know how to describe this feeling. HMPH. Patriarch Yi, looks like you've really been scared shitless by him. Right at this moment, Chen shouted fiercely with a low voice. Could it be that he didn't tell you he's a disciple of the five-element sect's would peak? Today, my older brother is representing the five-element sect's would peak to teach him a lesson. Disciple of the five-element sect's would peak. Yi Ting was stunned as he really didn't know that Duan Lingtian was a disciple of the five-element sect, and he instantly looked at a nearby Yi clan disciple and said, "You, go invite young Master Duan over." Yes, the Yi clan disciple replied respectfully before leaving. When Chen Wei saw Yi Ting ask someone to call Duan Lingtian over, he didn't say anything further and closed his eyes to meditate while waiting calmly. Chen who stood by Chen Wei's side had a complacent expression. Duan Lingtian, let me see how you're struck with misfortune. The corners of Chen An's mouth was suffused with a cold smile as he cursed in his heart. In a quiet little courtyard in the Yi clan, Duan Lingtian sat silently before a stone table as he drank tea, and his other hand held an azure-colored fragment at all times. I've finally comprehended third-level intermediate wind concept. Duan Lingtian glanced at the wind concept fragment in his hand as he revealed a satisfied smile, and at the same time, he raised his teacup up to take a sip, causing a fragrant tea to bloom within his mouth. Big Brother Duan. Suddenly, the sound of a door opening resounded out, and then a beautiful figure walked out from a room on the right of the little courtyard. It was precisely Yi Zan, who was in closed-door cultivation for a few days. At this moment, Yi Zan's face was covered in joy as she said delightedly, "Big Brother Duan, the medicinal pill you gave me is too miraculous. Only a few days have passed, yet my cultivation has once again recovered to the 7th level of the nascent soul stage." Yi Zan had discarded her origin energy a few days ago and started cultivating the cultivation method Duan Lingtian had given her. During this period of time, she'd consumed a few medicinal pills Duan Lingtian gave her. Those medicinal pills were precisely pills that were capable of absorbing and storing Yi Zan's dispersed origin energy, and after Yi Zan cultivated the new cultivation method, the medicinal pills would return the stored origin energy to Yi Zan. During these few days of time, Yi Zan had completely reclaimed the origin energy within the medicinal pills, and she was even a step away from breaking through to the 8th level of the nascent soul stage. Little Zan, even though those medicinal pills are miraculous, yet they're insufficient to allow you to recover your cultivation in such a short period of time. Could it be that you didn't notice during these past few days that the speed you absorbed the origin energy in the medicinal pills had become faster? Duan Lingtian shook his head and then asked with a smile. It has become faster, but isn't it because the origin energy in the medicinal pill was mine to begin with? Yi Zan asked curiously. She didn't know much about that type of medicinal pill, and she only knew that it was capable of absorbing her dispersed origin energy before allowing her to reclaim the origin energy by cultivating. You little girl, you've already completely absorbed the origin energy in those medicinal pills. Try and absorb the spirit energy of the heavens and the earth contained within origin stones to cultivate. Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly. He originally thought that after this little girl came out from closed-door cultivation, she would be delighted by the natural talent she possessed now, yet she unexpectedly seemed to have not noticed anything. Yi Zan nodded and sat before the store table before taking out a low-grade origin stone and starting to cultivate. After the time for over 10 breaths, Yi Zan opened her eyes, and her beautiful face was filled with astonishment. Big Brother Duan, why do I feel as if the speed I absorb the spirit energy of the heavens and the earth seems to be a few tens of times faster than before? Even though it isn't as swift as when I absorbed the origin energy that belonged to me in those medicinal pills, yet it isn't much slower. Yi Zan spoke in a slight daze. Silly girl, Duan Lingtian shook his head. You wouldn't have forgotten what I told you a few days ago, right? Did you really think the cleansing of impurities I did for you was just talk? According to his observation, Even though Yi Zan's current natural talent was inferior to his natural talent that was at the limit after consuming the 10,000-year stalactite milk, yet it wasn't much inferior. Cleansing of impurities. Yi Zan recalled what Duan Lingtian had told her a few days ago, and at that time, she didn't believe Duan Lingtian when he said that her current natural talent wasn't the same as before. Now the facts were laid before her eyes, and she had to believe it. Big brother Duan, you've really improved my natural talent. Yi Zan looked at Duan Lingtian, and her beautiful face was filled with excitement. Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly. You little girl, you're still doubting your big brother Duan now. Could it be that I look like a fraud? Big brother Duan, I didn't mean it that way. Yi Zan's beautiful face flushed red instantly when she heard Duan Lingtian, and then explained hurriedly. I'm just too surprised. Even though I knew that some precious materials in Cloud Continent are capable of improving a martial artist's natural talent, yet I've never heard of someone being capable of increasing the natural talent of another. Now you know how formidable your big brother Duan is, right? Said Duan Lingtian with a smile. Yes, big brother Duan is the most formidable. Yi Zan nodded her head like a chick pecking on grains, and then her face went red as she stared fixedly at Duan Lingtian. What, is there something on my face? Duan Lingtian felt uneasy when being stared at Yi Zan like this, and he couldn't help but ask. Kiss. Right when Duan Lingtian raised his hand and intended to touch his face, Yi Zan came closer and kissed Duan Lingtian on the cheek like a surprise attack. When Duan Lingtian was dumbstruck, Yi Zan had already ran back to her room with a red face, and she closed her room's door with a bang, as her voice sounded out. Big brother Duan, thank you. I'll cultivate properly. No sound escaped her room after she finished speaking. Obviously, after she found out that she possessed an extraordinary natural talent now, she started cultivating impatiently. This little girl. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled after being struck by Yi Zan's surprise attack. If I have the chance in the future, I'll bring little Zan to go see father and mother and make them take her as their foster daughter. Then she'll really be my younger sister. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart as a warm smile suffused his face. Young Master Duan. Right at this moment, a respectful and urgent voice sounded out from outside the courtyard. Duan Lingtian frowned. He discerned the urgency in the voice from outside, so he didn't dare dally and walked out directly. Only now did he notice that a Yi clan disciple was standing there with an anxious expression. What happened? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. He didn't know why this Yi clan disciple was so anxious, and he seemed as if he was rushing to go get reincarnated. Young Master Duan, quickly go over to take a look. Then Chen clan's eldest young master and second young master have come, and they seem to have come for the sake of the matter of you and the patriarch breaking off the engagement with the Chen clan. The Yi clan disciple spoke hurriedly. The Chen clan's eldest young master. Chen Wei. Duan Lingtian recalled that Yi Zan had mentioned the Chen clan's eldest young master who'd joined the five-element sect to him, and he couldn't help but ask. Yes. The Yi clan disciple nodded. Where are they? Lead the way, said Duan Lingtian. His expression remained calm from the beginning until the end and seemed as if he wasn't the slightest bit worried that Chen Wei would be able to do anything to him. The Yi clan disciple lead the way ahead and Duan Lingtian followed from behind. Didn't she say that the Chen clan's eldest young master is a reasonable person? Duan Lingtian frowned. He still remembered Yi Zan's evaluation of Chen Wei. According to Yi Zan, Chen Wei was an upright person and was like a completely different person when compared to his younger brother, Chen En. But if Chen Wei was really such a reasonable person, then it was logically impossible that he would come with Chen En to the Yi clan to look for trouble with him. No matter what, I'll go over and take a look first. I was just thinking about how to come into contact with the members of the five-element sect, yet I never imagined that Chen Wei would come looking for me. Duan Lingtian followed behind the Yi clan disciple and moved through the Yi clan estate to arrive at the audience hall not long after. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian noticed a group of people within the audience hall. Young Master Duan has arrived. The Yi clan disciple that led the way before Duan Lingtian shouted out in a loud voice. Instantly, the Yi clan disciples in ahead respectfully opened up a path. Young Master Duan, the numerous Yi clan disciples bowed respectfully and reverently towards Duan Lingtian who walked over. During this period of time, the deeds of the violet-clothed young man before them had practically spread throughout the entire Drift Cloud town. He'd successively defeated the Chen clan's patriarch and supreme elder by himself, and he assisted the Yi clan to break off the absurd marriage agreement with the Chen clan. Because of his matter, they who were Yi clan disciples noticed bystanders from all around looking at them with respectful gazes when they left the clan during these past few days, and it allowed their vanity to obtain sufficient satisfaction. They knew that all of this was given to them by the violet-clothed young man before them, and if it wasn't for this violet-clothed young man, no one would respect them like that. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled and nodded in reply to all the group of fervent Yi clan disciples. Instantly, the Yi clan disciples revealed brilliant smiles and exclaimed with admiration. Not only is young Master Duan's strength formidable, he's so modest as well. It's truly difficult to come by. When he saw Duan Lingtian receive such respect from the Yi clan disciples, Chen An's expression completely darkened, and he looked at the nearby Yi Ting and ridiculed. Patriarch Yi, I think your position as patriarch can almost be given to this Duan Lingtian. In the future, the Yi clan can just change its name to the Duan clan, and all the members of the Yi clan can change their surname to Duan. Chen An's words caused Yi Ting's expression to become extremely unsightly. 853 Chapter 854, Blasted Flying with a Single Strike. Asking the Yi clan to change its name was undoubtedly an undisguised insult to their Yi clan. For a time, it wasn't just Yi Ting, all the Yi clan elders and disciples stared furiously at Chen An, yet because of being afraid of Chen Wei, they didn't dare make any movements. Little N, don't go too far. Don't forget that we didn't come to the Yi clan today to condemn them. Finally, Chen Wei, who stood silently at the side in meditation, opened his eyes, and his sharp gaze descended onto the violet-clothed young man at the first possible moment. You're Duan Lingtian? Chen Wei looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a low voice. Exactly. Duan Lingtian nodded indifferently, and at the same time, he started sizing up the young man, Chen Wei, before him. Chen Wei was around the age of 35, with a righteous aura between his brows, and a single glance allowed one to discern that he was an upright person. This was something that was completely opposite of his younger brother. Do you know what's the consequences of impersonating a disciple of the Five-Element sect to bully others and seize women? Chen Wei's gaze was like a bolt of lightning as he stared at Duan Lingtian and asked with a low voice. Impersonating a disciple of the Five-Element sect? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Chen Wei. Everyone from the Yi clan couldn't help but be stunned as well. Duan Lingtian impersonated a disciple of the Five-Element sect. As far as they were concerned, with the attainments Duan Lingtian had obtained at such an age, there was utterly no need for him to impersonate a disciple of the Five-Element sect. If Duan Lingtian wanted, he would be completely capable of easily joining the Five-Element sect. At a mere age of around 25, he utilized an unfathomable ability to defeat a martial artist at the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage. Would such an outstanding young man need to impersonate a disciple of the Five-Element sect? Eldest young Master Chen, is there a misunderstanding? Yi Ting asked. Duan Lingtian recovered from his shock, and his brows raised up. When he unintentionally looked towards Chen An, who was by Chen Wei's side, he noticed that slight panic was contained between Chen An's brows. For a time, he faintly guessed what had happened. Duan Lingtian. Right at this moment, before Duan Lingtian could speak, Chen An had already shouted out explosively and looked at Duan Lingtian furiously. You scum! Not only did you impersonate a disciple of the Five-Element sect's would-peak to bully others and seize women, you even took my fiancé forcefully and forced the Yi clan to break off the engagement with our Chen clan. I won't let you off. I'll risk my life to kill you. As he finished shouted out furiously, Chen An pounced towards Duan Lingtian with a manner as if he wanted to risk his life to kill Duan Lingtian. The group of Yi clan members were stunned when they saw Chen An pounce towards Duan Lingtian, as they never imagined that this good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan would dare launch an attack at Duan Lingtian. Logically speaking, he ought to know Duan Lingtian's strength. Duan Lingtian started laughing, and he laughed extremely brightly and brilliantly. He naturally guessed Chen An's thoughts yet didn't expose them and laughed coldly instead as he shouted. You contemptible wretch! As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he slapped out a palm strike towards Chen An with a raise of his hand. Duan Lingtian didn't utilize too much strength in this strike. Don't harm my younger brother. When he saw Duan Lingtian's palm strike about to descend onto Chen An, Chen Wei shouted out with a grim voice as he took a stride forward and similarly slapped out with his palm to greet Duan Lingtian's palm. Whoosh! Vast origin energy transformed into vast and surging flames on Chen Wei's palm as it flashed out through the sky and gave rise to a wave of ear-piercing explosions of the air before moving to intercept Duan Lingtian's palm. In the sky, the phenomenon of the heavens and the earth arose abruptly to first condense 60 ancient horned dragon silhouettes before another 40 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. A total of 100 ancient horned dragon silhouettes flashed out with an imposing aura that shot into the sky like a rainbow. 4th level Void Interpretation Stage. 3rd level Intermediate Fire Concept. This was the strength of the Chen clan's eldest young master, the disciple of the five-element sect's Wood Peak, Chen Wei. Interesting. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a cold smile as the origin energy on his hand suddenly exploded out to transform into gusts of piercingly cold strong winds that formed a ceaselessly revolving vortex at the center of his palm. Bang! Finally, Duan Lingtian and Chen Wei's palms collided and emitted an enormous bang. Subsequently, raging flames gushed out from Chen Wei's palm and sprayed towards Duan Lingtian as if it wanted to burn Duan Lingtian's entire body into ash. The strong wind that roared and revolved without end counterattacked from Duan Lingtian's hand instead, and it collided with the raging flames before completely suppressing it. Crack! The clear sound of bones breaking resounded out, and it was accompanied by an exceedingly heavy muffled groan as it entered into the ears of everyone present. Subsequently, everyone saw that after Duan Lingtian's palm strike suppressed Chen Wei and broke Chen Wei's arm, the palm strike that swept out like a tornado descended onto Chen Wei. Bang! Another enormous bang resounded out as Chen Wei's entire body flew out like an arrow leaving bow, and after he flew out for over 10 meters, he collided onto the wall of the Yi clan's audience hall before falling down and losing consciousness. Practically at the exact same time. Swish, swish. With the expanse of sky behind and before Duan Lingtian as the center, two compressed waves of air exploded out and swept out towards the surroundings, and it blew onto the clothes of the members of the Yi clan to the point of fluttering with the wind. Some Yi clan disciples with comparatively lower cultivations were even struck by the waves of air to the point of repeatedly taking a few steps back. In the sky above Duan Lingtian, 110 ancient horned dragon silhouettes dispersed gradually, causing the sky to once again return to calm. It's still the first time I'm fighting since I broke through. Duan Lingtian lightly clenched his fists as he revealed a slight smile. 5th level of the Void Interpretation Stage. 3rd level Intermediate Wind Concept. This was Duan Lingtian's current strength. During this period of time in the Yi clan, not only had his cultivation completed a breakthrough, even his wind concept had broken through once again to obtain an increase of the strength of 20 ancient horned dragons. But, why didn't my spiritual force increase this time? Since he broke through to the 5th level of the Void Interpretation Stage 2 days ago, Duan Lingtian had always been perplexed by this and didn't know what exactly had happened. According to convention, his spiritual force was improved by a soul pearl and that was capable of improving the strength of the soul, and his soul was 2 levels higher than his cultivation. All along, his spiritual force had maintained an advancement of being 2 levels ahead of his cultivation. But when he broke through to the 5th level of the Void Interpretation Stage this time, Duan Lingtian noticed to his shock that his spiritual force was still at the 6th level of the Void Interpretation Stage and didn't advance to the 7th level of the Void Interpretation Stage. Logically speaking, this was impossible. There's only one possibility: it's a side effect left behind after the Devilseal tablet changed unusually. Now Duan Lingtian could only explain it in this way. On that day, when he was besieged by the 6 elders of the Skywolf Fort, the energy that gushed out from within the Devilseal tablet after he touched it didn't just enter his arm, it also entered his soul. After that, he lost consciousness. In his dazed state, a scene that was like a dream had appeared, whereas, he'd already confirmed that it wasn't a dream but reality. The energy of the Devilseal tablet had temporarily taken control of his body and slaughtered all living beings in his surroundings. At that time, even Feng Wudao was almost killed by him who was controlled by the Devilseal tablet. Fortunately, he was barely capable of maintaining a trace of consciousness, and it allowed Feng Wudao to escape calamity. If the truth is really as I think it is, then the side effect of the Devilseal tablet is too big, right? Duan Lingtian's heart was filled with helplessness and bitterness. All along, he'd relied on his spiritual force that was 2 levels above his cultivation to execute his soul skill, 1000 illusions, and it could be said to be the strongest ability he possessed. It was even to the extent that he'd relied on his soul skill on many occasions to defeat opponents he was unable to defeat by solely relying on his strength. Now, after his cultivation advanced to the 5th level of the Void Interpretation Stage, his spiritual force didn't advance along with it, and it had maintained itself at the 6th level of the Void Interpretation Stage instead. This caused him to be slightly unhappy and disappointed. Duan Lingtian let out a breath of air and returned to his senses. No matter why exactly it had happened, since it had already happened, it was bound to be something that was difficult to change. I hope that my spiritual force will be able to advance again when I break through to the 6th level of the void interpretation stage. Otherwise, it's practically impossible to surmount levels to defeat my opponents. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. What he was most worried about was that his spiritual force would become similar to his cultivation once more. If that situation really appeared, then his soul skill, 1,000 illusions, would become utterly useless. Don't move. After he returned to his senses, Duan Lingtian noticed Chen and had carried the unconscious Chen Wei on his back and wanted to sneak off, and Duan Lingtian couldn't help but shout out with a grim voice. Instantly, the body of Chen and who'd just soared into the sky shook, and he revealed a ruthless gaze as he stared at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, you're dead since you dared to heavily injure my older brother. Senior K will absolutely not let you off. Senior K. Duan Lingtian's brows raised, and then he flashed out to arrive nearby Chen and ask indifferently. Who's the Senior K you speak about? A member of the Five-Element sect. Exactly. Chen revealed ruthlessness in his gaze as he stared at Duan Lingtian. Senior K isn't just a member of the Five-Element sect, he's also my older brother's master and an elder of the Five-Element sect's Wood Peak. An elder of the Five-Element sect? As soon as Chen said this, Duan Lingtian didn't have any reaction, yet the Yi clan's patriarch Yi Ting had already gone grim, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Duan Lingtian. Brother Duan, you should leave the Yi clan quickly and go into hiding. An elder of the Five-Element sect is at least at the void transformation stage. He's far from something you can compare to. An elder of the Five-Element sect. Duan Lingtian seemed as if he'd utterly not heard what Yi Ting said, and his brows raised as he looked at Chen and asked indifferently. Where's that elder of the Five-Element sect now? He's naturally at our Chen clan. Chen grunted coldly, and then he ridiculed. You wouldn't be thinking of going to our Chen clan to apologize to Senior K, right? If you are, then let me tell you now, it's useless. My older brother is the disciple Senior K dotes on the most and regards my older brother as his own child. Since you've crippled my brother's arm and even heavily injured him, Senior K will surely not let you off. As he finished speaking, the smile on Chen An's face grew wider. Who else from the Five-Element sect came with your brother? Duan Lingtian's expression was still calm as he asked indifferently. Even if it's only Senior K, it's sufficient to annihilate you 1,000 times. Duan Lingtian, wash your neck clear and wait. Of course, you can flee as well. Ha 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 ha. As he finished speaking, Chen laughed without restraint, and his laughter was filled with joy. 854 Chapter 855, Pitiable. No wonder the people of Drift Cloud Town say you're worse than an animal, they aren't wrong in the slightest. A wisp of coldness arose on the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth as he looked at Chen who laughed loudly. Duan Lingtian, if I was you, I'd quickly flee for my life and not waste time here, but even if you escape Drift Cloud Town, you might not be able to escape Senior K's hands. Chen withdrew his unrestrained laughter, and he looked at Duan Lingtian as if he was looking at the dead. Do you think that a dignified elder of the Five-Element sect would be so stupid? Duan Lingtian suddenly started laughing to the point Chen felt horrified and couldn't help but shout coldly. What do you mean by this? What do I mean? Duan Lingtian glanced deeply at Chen. Could it be that you aren't clear of what I mean than anyone else? Perhaps it was I that injured your older brother, yet why did I injure your older brother? Do you think that elder of the Five-Element sect would be unable to find out that it was you that led your older brother into a trap? You're talking nonsense. Chen An's face went grim when Duan Lingtian pointed out his worries, and he roared furiously as if he wanted to use a loud voice to conceal the lack of confidence in his heart. I'm talking nonsense. The smile revealed on Duan Lingtian's face grew even more brilliant, and then he said, all right, I'll make a trip to the Chen clan with you. Let's see if that elder of the Five-Element sect hates you, the cause of everything, or me, the person that injured your older brother. You still dare go to our Chen clan? Chen An's pupils constricted as he said with astonishment, aren't you afraid of death? Death? Even if I die, you'll probably die before me, right? I'm extremely curious, what expression would that elder of the Five-Element sect possess when the disciple he dotes on the most was led into a trap by his disciple's own younger brother? The smile on Duan Lingtian's face remained. You're mad. You're mad. Chen An's expression was extremely gloomy as he was really worried that Duan Lingtian would return to the Chen clan with him. He originally thought that his scheme was extremely thorough, and once he brought his heavily injured older brother to the Chen clan while Duan Lingtian had fled instead. Then his brother's master, the elder of the Five-Element sect, Ke Jung, would surely spare no costs to pursue and kill Duan Lingtian. At that time, Duan Lingtian would probably not even have the chance to say anything before being killed by Ke Zhen. Yet now, the development of the matter had completely not moved according to the scheme in his heart. Or perhaps, the person that stood before him was too composed to the point it struck fear in his heart. Patriarch Yi, call little Zan over, we'll make a trip to the Chen clan together. Didn't this second young master Chen say that I've forcefully taken his fiancé? We'll go face the elder of the Five-Element sect with him. I don't believe that everyone in the Chen clan will go along with his lies. As he finished speaking, the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a ridiculing smile. As the patriarch of the Yi clan, Yi Ting was naturally not a stupid person, and he vaguely guessed some things from what Duan Lingtian said earlier. All right, I'll go bring little Zan over now. As he spoke, Yi Ting transformed into a bolt of lightning that shot towards the little courtyard Yi Zan resided in. In the sky, Chen An's expression was extremely unsightly as he looked at Duan Lingtian and said with a low voice, Duan Lingtian, what exactly do you want to do? What do you want? What do I want to do? What do I want? Duan Lingtian looked at Chen An as if he was looking at an idiot and laughed coldly. Second young master Chen, shouldn't I be asking you these words? I want to ask you what you want to do. What do you want? Out of respect for your father, I didn't fuss about the things you did in the past, but what have you done now? You deceived your own older brother and used him to deal with me. Do you really think that I, Duan Lingtian, am an idiot like you and would walk into your trap? As he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian slowly spoke a single word from his mouth. Idiot. Idiot. Duan Lingtian's voice was like the sound of an enormous bell that shook Chen An to the point his face went ghastly pale. Every single word Duan Lingtian spoke seemed to have transformed into a sledgehammer that collided fiercely on his chest and caused his breathing to become even more hurried. Duan Lingtian. Finally, Chen An took a deep breath and said slowly, so long as you ask the members of the Yi clan not to say anything about what happened today, then I won't fuss about it with you. As for my older brother, I'll say that he was heavily injured by an expert of unknown origin. Chen An speaking like this was obviously a sign of submitting, and at the same time, he admitted that his scheme had failed. Oh, Duan Lingtian was greatly surprised when he heard Chen An, and then he asked curiously. But your brother was obviously injured by me, even he knows that I injured him as well. In this way, wouldn't the elder of the Five-Element sect find out sooner or later? My older brother dotes on me the most. So long as I admit my mistakes to him, then he'll surely go along with what I say and will absolutely not sell you out. Chen An spoke with a low voice. Chen An words caused Duan Lingtian to be unable to help but shoot his gaze at Chen Wei, who was heavily injured and unconscious, and his eyes revealed slight pity. As far as he was concerned, it was truly a sad thing for Chen Wei to possess such a younger brother. His younger brother had completely taken his affection as a tool that could be used, and it was pitiable. I really feel bad for your older brother. Duan Lingtian shook his head and spoke from the bottom of his heart. You don't have to care about this, in any case, we'll go our separate ways. As soon as Chen An finished speaking, he wanted to take the unconscious Chen Wei and leave. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian flashed out to stop Chen An once more. Chen An's face sank, and he said furiously, Duan Lingtian, do you really think that it will be beneficial for you if you make a big thing out of this matter? Let me tell you that even if my brother's master knows the sequence of events, it's impossible for him to kill me with my brother protecting me. Yet you're in more danger than me. Is that so? Then I'll make a trip with you. Duan Lingtian laughed fearlessly. Madman, you're a mother f***C king madman. Chen An roared with a heavy expression. He's spoken like that earlier, yet he was actually not confident in his heart. Who knew if his brother's master would become enraged and kill him before his brother awoke? What exactly do you want before you'll be willing to let go of this matter? Chen An took a deep breath and asked with a low voice. Duan Lingtian paid no attention to him and looked at the two figures that flashed over from the distance. It was Yi Ting who was bringing Yi Zan along to arrive in the sky above the Yi clan's audience hall in the blink of an eye. Big brother Duan. Yi Zan didn't look at Chen An but looked at Duan Lingtian instead, and she asked with a worried expression. I heard from my father that you injured Chen Wei and still want to go to the Chen clan. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded with a light smile. You come with me as well, as I might need your help. When he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian looked at Chen and restrained him with a raise of his hand before bringing along the unconscious Chen Wei and flying towards the Chen clan. Behind him, Yi Ting brought along Yi Zan, who hadn't stepped into the void-prying stage and was incapable of flying herself. The remaining Yi clan elders and disciples sighed successively. Young Master Duan is really capable. From the beginning until the end, that good-for-nothing young master of the Chen clan was completely played within the palm of young Master Duan's hand. All the Yi clan disciples looked at Duan Lingtian's figure that vanished into the distance with admiration, and they only returned to their senses after Duan Lingtian's figure completely vanished before their eyes. Big brother Duan, Yi Zan carried slight worry between her brows as she was worried something would happen to Duan Lingtian. Little Zan, don't worry, since brother Lingtian has made a decision like this, I believe he knows what he's doing and will be fine. Even though Yi Ting was perturbed in his heart as well, but due to his trust towards Duan Lingtian, he still couldn't help but console Yi Zan. After all, when he went to the Chen clan to break off the engagement with Duan Lingtian that day, his feelings were even worse than it was now when he saw the strength Duan Lingtian revealed was inferior to the Chen clan's supreme elder. But later on, Duan Lingtian had used an unfathomable ability to play with the Supreme Elder in the palms of his hand, and it caused Yi Ting's feelings to instantly ascend the heavens from hell. Okay, Yi Zan nodded when she heard Yi Ting's consolation. Duan Lingtian, let me go. Let me go. Chen An, who was restrained by Duan Lingtian and brought along to the Chen clan, roared ceaselessly all along the way, and his expression was extremely hideous. Duan Lingtian couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. Duan Lingtian, so long as you let me go, not only will I remove you from any implication in this matter, I'll also guarantee that I'll absolutely not continue committing evil deeds in the future, it's true. Believe me, believe me. After Chen An noticed being forceful was useless, he chose to submit. But unfortunately, he neither listened nor bowed to force. After a short moment, Duan Lingtian once again arrived in the sky above the Chen clan estate. The reason he wanted to make a big deal out of the matter this time was firstly to teach Chen An a lesson, and secondly because he wanted to join the Five Elements sect through that elder before heading to the treasure vault left behind by the martial emperor stage expert to join Tian Wu and the others. It was precisely because of this that he didn't strike ruthlessly when heavily injuring Chen Wei. Chen Wei's injuries looked to be extremely heavy, yet so long as he consumed a healing medicinal pill and recuperated slightly, Chen Wei would be able to recover completely in less than half a month. Chen Clan Audience Hall. After the elder of the Five Element sect's Wood Peak, Ke Zheng, had a meal while accompanied by all the higher-ups of the Chen clan, he sat at the head seat in the audience hall. Below him sat the Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong, and the elders of the Chen clan. Wei is really something. He rarely makes a trip back yet actually even missed the banquet we prepared to celebrate Elder Ke's arrival. Chen Dong looked at Ke Zheng with an apologetic expression. Elder Ke, I'm truly something. It's surely that youngest son of mine that has dragged Wei out, and I'll surely teach him a proper lesson once he returns. There's no harm done. Ke Zheng shook his head and chuckled. Chen Wei hasn't returned for 4 years, let him go around Drift Cloud Town, after all, we're leaving tomorrow. So quickly. Chen Dong was shocked greatly. Elder Ke, I still want to properly entertain you. How about you stay for a few more days? Patriarch Chen, I brought Chen Wei out this time because we really have something to attend to. Because of certain reasons, our Five Element sect needs to recruit a batch of void interpretation stage martial artists that are below the age of 40. Up until now, our Wood Peak has only recruited 2 people, and we're still far away from the expected target. As Ke Zheng finished speaking, he couldn't help but sigh. Our time is extremely tight. Void interpretation stage martial artists below the age of 40. Chen Dong's eyes couldn't help but light up when he heard Ke Zheng. Elder Ke, I thought of a person when you said this, perhaps I can help recommend him to join the Five Element sect. 855 Chapter 856, arriving once more at the Chen clan. Oh, Ke Zheng's eyes lit up when he heard Chen Dong, and he asked with slight surprise. Could it be that your Chen clan possesses a young genius that satisfies this condition? Elder Ke, you must be joking. Besides Wei, how could our Chen clan possess such an outstanding young genius? Chen Dong laughed bitterly. He's a young brother I became acquainted with a few days ago, and he possesses an extraordinary strength at his young age. I'm not afraid to incur Elder Ke's ridicule, but not a single person in our Chen clan was a match for that young brother. What? Ke Zheng was instantly shocked greatly when he heard this. Patriarch Chen, I heard from Chen Wei that the Supreme Elder of your Chen clan had already broken through to the 5th level of the Void Interpretation stage 4 years ago. Could it be that even he isn't a match for that young brother you spoke of? There's something you don't know, Elder K. Our Chen clan's Supreme Elder had broken through to the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage some time ago. Chen Dong sighed, and his gaze became slightly complicated. That violet-clothed young man from before shocked him too greatly. 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage. K. Jung's pupils constricted, and he was moved. Patriarch Chen, could it be that the young brother you spoke of has even defeated your Chen clan's Supreme Elder, an existence at the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage? Yes. Chen Dong nodded. Where's he now? K. Jung's eyes shone as he asked urgently. He suddenly felt that it was extremely likely that the young man would be a turning point for the Wood Peak. Presently, the Wood Peak was declining steadily, and it urgently required outstanding fresh blood to join it. He has been staying in Ardrift Cloud Town's Yi clan during this period of time. Elder K, if you're interested, then all. Chen Dong hadn't finished speaking when he was interrupted by a sudden voice. Patriarch Chen, Duan Lingtian has come uninvited, I hope you don't hold it against me. A calm and resounding voice sounded out from outside the Chen clan audience hall, and it grew closer and closer. It's him. Chen Dong's eyes lit up as he hurriedly looked towards the entrance. He didn't expect that he'd just mentioned Duan Lingtian and Duan Lingtian had arrived. But his face quickly went grim. He did see Duan Lingtian, yet he also saw another 2 people. A young man with a face covered in terror, and a young man who was heavily injured and unconscious. Their 2 people couldn't be any more familiar to him, and they were precisely his 2 sons. Chen Wei. An aged voice sounded out abruptly as the old man who sat at the head vanished, and when he appeared once more, he was already at the side of the unconscious young man, the Chen clan's eldest young master, Chen Wei. After he inspected Chen Wei's injuries and found that it wasn't serious, the old man heaved a sigh of relief. After he fed Chen Wei a healing medicinal pill and reconnected Chen Wei's arm, he stood up and looked at the nearby violet-clothed young man. The violet-clothed young man was naturally Duan Lingtian. Patriarch Chen, excuse me, Yi Ting, and my daughter for disturbing you. Another voice sounded out as the Yi clan's patriarch, Yi Ting, brought his daughter Yi Zan along and entered. You injured Chen Wei. The muddy eyes of the old man, K. Jung, stared fixedly at Duan Lingtian as he spoke with a slightly low voice. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded, and then he carefully sized up the old man before him. When he'd just arrived at the Chen clan audience hall earlier, he'd noticed the old man that sat at the head seat, and it was extremely easy for him to guess the old man's identity. Elder of the 5-element sect and Chen Wei's master. Why, the old man was obviously a calm person, and even if he saw the disciple he doted on the most injured heavily, he didn't lose his head from rage and wanted to first understand the sequence of events instead. When he saw the old man be so reasonable, Duan Lingtian's eyes had slight praise and respect. Actually, he'd thought countless times before he'd come here that if Chen Wei's master was an unreasonable person that only protected his own and made a move against him before asking for the reason, then Duan Lingtian would kill Chen Wei's master with the talisman at the first possible moment. Now it would seem like not only could he save a talisman, he would even be able to attain his main objective from coming here today, which was to join the 5-element sect and join up with his friends that he got separated from through the 5-element sect. You're probably eldest young master Chen's master, Elder K from the 5-element sect, right? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed as he asked with a light smile. Exactly. K Jung nodded, and then he glanced at Chen Wei that lay on the ground and asked with a low voice. How did this useless disciple of mine offend you to the point of making you strike so ruthlessly? Ruthlessly. Duan Lingtian started laughing. Elder K, let's be straightforward, do you really think I've struck your disciple ruthlessly? K Jen couldn't help but be speechless when he heard this. Needless to say, even though he said that the violet-clothed young man had struck ruthlessly, he didn't think so in his heart. He'd clearly inspected the injuries on his disciple, it only required consuming a healing medicinal pill and rejoining the bones before recuperating for a period of time, and it wouldn't leave behind any side effects. No matter what, you've injured my disciple, I feel this disciple of mine conducts himself well and would absolutely not cause trouble. So shouldn't you give me an explanation? K Jung asked with a low voice. Actually, his heart was filled with shock at this moment, he was shocked by the age of this violet-clothed young man before him. This young man that looked to be 25 at most was actually capable of defeating his personal disciple, Chen Wei, who was a martial artist at the 4th level of the void interpretation stage. He's noticed when he inspected Chen Wei's injuries that Chen Wei was heavily injured under the circumstances of fighting another head-on. Moreover, the person that injured Chen Wei had held back intentionally. Otherwise, Chen Wei's injuries wouldn't be so simple. It was difficult for him to imagine how a young man at such an age actually possessed such a terrifying strength. Unknowingly, the intention to cherish a genius like Duan Lingtian had arisen in the depths of his heart. If I'm really able to bring him back to the 5-element sect, then why would I have to worry that the wood peak wouldn't rise? But, I must probe his behavior before bringing him back. Otherwise, even if I bring him back, he'll be poached away by the other 3 peaks. Ke Jung thought in his heart. During these past few years, it wasn't that disciples with outstanding natural talent hadn't appeared in their wood peak. Yet because of various reasons, all of them were poached away by the other 3 peaks. If the violet-clothed young man before him was a fence-sitter like the others, then no matter how high his natural talent was, Ke Jung wouldn't bring him back to the 5-element sect. Because it would only be bringing back benefits to be reaped by the other 3 peaks. Explanation. Duan Lingtian shook his head when he heard Ke Jung, and then he pointed at Chen En. Elder K, if you really want an explanation, then I think he ought to be the most suitable to give you an explanation. Ke Jung frowned and looked at Chen En. Is what he's saying true? No. Chen En hurriedly shook his head, and then he pointed at Duan Lingtian in panic. Elder K, it's him. It's he who injured my brother. Quickly kill him, quickly kill him. Bastard. Finally, Chen Dong walked over and glared angrily at Chen En as he asked with a shout. Answer truthfully, what absurd thing have you done this time? He vaguely guessed some things in his head. He understood his eldest son and believed that his eldest son would absolutely not take the initiative to offend Duan Lingtian. Moreover, there was no enmity between the two of them. As for Duan Lingtian, even though he'd only become acquainted with Duan Lingtian for a short period of time, he was able to discern that Duan Lingtian was an upright person. Thus, as far as he was concerned, this matter was most probably caused by his youngest son. Chen An's entire body shook as his face went ghastly pale when being shouted at by Chen Dong, and he stretched out his hand to point at Duan Lingtian and shout. Father, it's him, it's he who injured brother, all of you kill him quickly. Kill him quickly. Presently, Chen An was roaring hysterically, and he seemed to be hiding the terror in his heart. Looks like you aren't willing to speak to truth. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Chen En, and then he looked at Yi Ting. Patriarch Yi, please tell Elder K and Patriarch Chen how domineering second young Master Chen was at the Yi clan estate earlier. What, you unfilial son, you actually brought your elder brother to the Yi clan estate. Chen Dong's face went grim when he heard Duan Lingtian, and he raised his hand to give Chen An a slap, causing Chen An to be dazed by the slap. Yi Ting took a deep breath and didn't conceal anything as he slowly spoke of the matter of Chen An bringing Chen Wei along into the Yi clan estate and injuring the numerous Yi clan disciples. Besides that, I think eldest young Master Chen might have been deceived by second young Master Chen, Yi Ting had just spoken up to hear when he was interrupted by Chen An. Yi Ting, don't sling mud at me. Father, Elder K, I didn't deceive my brother, I didn't deceive my brother. It was they who injured my brother. Quickly kill them, quickly kill them. Chen An looked at Chen Dong and Ke Jung as he howled hysterically. Bastard, shut up. Chen Dong's face sank as he shouted out with a grim voice once more, and it terrified Chen An to the point his face went even paler as his body started trembling intensely out of fear. Oh, suddenly, a voice sounded out, and it was the unconscious Chen Wei that had opened his eyes and spoke in a daze. Where is this? Since eldest young Master Chen has awoken, Patriarch Yi, you don't have to waste your breath. Duan Lingtian smiled, and then he glanced at Chen An. What do you think, second young Master Chen? Chen An's face sank slightly as he took a deep breath and hurriedly looked at Chen Wei. You wouldn't be thinking of using a voice transmission to ask your brother to help lie for you, right? After he noticed Chen An's actions, Duan Lingtian took a step forward and grabbed Chen An up before making him spin a few rounds like a top, causing Chen An to become completely dazed and incapable of sending a voice transmission. Chen Wei, Chen Dong and Ke Jung didn't stop Duan Lingtian as they strode out to support Chen Wei up from both sides, and their faces were covered with worry. Father, Master, after Chen Wei sobered up, he asked with a perplexed expression. How did I come here? It's you, What are you doing to little En? Chen Wei's expression went grim when he saw Duan Lingtian who was toying with Chen En, and he shouted out furiously as he moved to make a move against Duan Lingtian and save Chen En. But unfortunately, he who hadn't completely healed his injuries had only just taken a stride forward before he almost fell down. Fortunately, he had Chen Dong and Ke Jung to support him. Chen Wei, what exactly happened? Tell us the sequence of events of the entire matter without leaving out the slightest detail. Ke Jung asked with a low voice. When faced with the frank and straightforward violet-clothed young man, he didn't dare confirm whether it was his disciple who was in the wrong or was it the violet-clothed young man that was in the wrong. 856 Chapter 857, I'm satisfied, I'm satisfied. No, when Chen En heard what Ke Jung said to Chen Wei, he who wasn't facing Chen Wei and was incapable of sending a voice transmission to Chen Wei spoke out with the intention of stopping Chen Wei. Slap. Duan Lingtian who was prepared since long ago raised his hand and swung out with a slap, striking Chen En to the point he became dizzy. Shut up, I'll beat you until your head is swollen if you speak another word. You. Chen Wei's face went grim when he saw Duan Lingtian treating his younger brother like that, and his eyes went crimson, yet was utterly unable to utilize strength and could only watch idly by. Father, Master, quickly stop him. Chen Wei sought for help from Chen Dong and Ke Jung, yet he quickly noticed that not matter if it was his father or master, they didn't have any intention of helping Chen En. For a time, he vaguely realized that the atmosphere was strange. Father, what happened? Chen Wei looked at Chen Dong with a perplexed expression. Wei, answer your master. Chen Dong spoke with a serious expression. Only now did Chen Wei notice that his master was looking at him with a solemn expression, and he instantly didn't dare dally as he spoke of everything Chen En had told him since he just arrived home. Not only has that Duan Lingtian impersonated a disciple of our five-element sect's would-peak to seize women and bully others, he even forcefully took my younger brother's fiancée before suppressing the Yi clan and making the Yi clan break off the engagement with our Chen clan, causing our Chen clan to lose face greatly. Chen Wei looked at Duan Lingtian and gnashed his teeth as he said, so, it was I that wanted to teach him a lesson, and it has nothing to do with little En. Moreover, master, don't you think that he ought to be taught a lesson? Impersonated a disciple of my would-peak. Ke Jung's face sank after he heard Chen Wei, and then he looked at Duan Lingtian with a cold and indifferent gaze. How do you explain that? Explain. Duan Lingtian started laughing as he glanced indifferently at Ke Jung and said, Elder Ke, truthfully speaking, I utterly didn't know of the existence of the five-element sect before I helped the Yi clan break off the engagement with the Chen clan, let alone the would-peak. As for the reason I came to break off the engagement with the Chen clan, Patriarch Chen knows clearly about it. If Patriarch Chen says he doesn't know, then I've brought the person concerned. When he spoke up to hear, Duan Lingtian looked at Yi Zan who was behind Yi Ting. Little Zan, come here. Yi Zan stood by Duan Lingtian's obediently as she looked timidly at Ke Jung. To her, the elder of the five-element sect was an existence that was far out of her reach and could only be looked up to, and her heart was filled with a perturbed feeling when facing him. There's no need for young Miss Yi to personally speak of this matter. Chen Dong took a deep breath before explaining the marriage agreement between the Yi clan that was a farce to Ke Jung, and at the same time, he spoke of all the misdeeds of his youngest son during these past few years. So, it was this unfilial son of mine that was unworthy of the Yi clan's young miss. It was understandable that brother Lingtian came to our Chen clan to break off the engagement, and he'd conducted himself frankly and openly. He only came for the sake of repaying the Yi clan's young miss's life-saving grace, and he didn't want anything else. When he spoke up to hear, Chen Dong looked angrily at Chen Wei who had his back to him, and he said with a low voice, yet never had I imagined that this unfilial son of mine would actually give a false account to Chen Wei. The person that bullied others and seized women was obviously him, yet it had become brother Lingtian when he spoke of it. As for impersonating a disciple of the five-element sect's would-peak, it was surely he who slandered brother Lingtian for the sake of infuriating Wei and making Wei stand up for him. As Chen Dong finished speaking, he was boiling with rage, and his clothes fluttered without the wind. What? Chen Wei's face went pale when he heard his father, and he looked at Chen An's figure with disbelief as he muttered. It was little En. When did little En become like this? Why did little En become like this? No, impossible, impossible. Chen Wei was unable to accept the fact that his younger brother was a profligate disciple of the clan, and frequently bullied others and seized women. In the end, he was unable to catch his breath, causing his vital energy and blood to move in reverse, and he fainted once more. Third Elder, Please take the eldest young master to go rest. Chen Dong sighed, and then he looked at Chen Lei who stood silently at the side and gestured to him. Yes, Chen Lei replied respectfully before carrying the unconscious Chen Wei away. Looks like I was mistaken about you. Kei Zhen looked at Duan Lingtian and squeezed out a slight smile that seemed to be amiable. You're called Duan Lingtian? Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded. Good, good. Kei Zheng sized up Duan Lingtian from top to bottom as he revealed a satisfied smile. Elder Kei, he's the young brother I mentioned to you earlier. Seeming to have discerned Kei Zheng's interest towards Duan Lingtian, the nearby Chen Dong said with a light smile, on that day, for the sake of repaying young Miss Yi's life-saving grace, he trespassed into our Chen clan estate to defeat me before defeating our Chen clan's supreme elder and broke off the absurd engagement for the Yi clan. It's rare that one is able to go to such lengths for the sake of repaying a life-saving grace. The gaze Kei Zheng shot at Duan Lingtian became even more satisfied, as he was able to discern from this that there was utterly no problem with Duan Lingtian's character, and his worries earlier were completely unnecessary. Most importantly, Duan Lingtian's natural talent in the martial Dao could truly be said to be terrifying. A young man that looked to be merely around the age of 25 was actually capable of defeating the Chen clan's supreme elder, an existence at the 6th level of the void interpretation stage. Even if it was their 5-element sect, it didn't possess such an outstanding disciple. Perhaps he's an opportunity for our Wood Peak to turn its situation around. Kei Zheng's gaze became slightly excited as he looked at Duan Lingtian, and he seemed to have seen his Wood Peak rising and the members of the other 3 peaks being shocked to the extreme. Patriarch Chen, I'll be embarrassed if you continue praising me. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, and then he threw Chen on the ground with a raise of his hand before a sharp light flashed within his eyes. Patriarch Chen, how do you intend to deal with the matter this time? As soon as Duan Lingtian said this, Kei Zheng looked at Chen Dong as well, and his gaze became slightly fierce. Obviously, this elder of the 5-element sect detested Chen An's despicable conduct, especially since Chen An had led his own brother which was Kei Zheng's disciple into a trap, causing Kei Zheng to be even more infuriated. But as the saying goes, even an upright family finds it hard to deal with a problem in the family. He knew clearly in his heart that he was an outsider to the Chen clan in the end, and it wasn't convenient for him to interfere in this matter. Brother Duan, don't worry. I'll give both you and Elder Kei a satisfying explanation. Chen Dong took a deep breath and seemed to have made some sort of decision. Father, I know my mistakes. I know my mistakes. Forgive me this time, forgive me this time. When he saw Chen Dong's fierce gaze that swept over, Chen An seemed to have realized what was about to happen, and he couldn't help but shudder as he endlessly begged for mercy with a trembling voice. But unfortunately, the fierceness in Chen Dong's eyes didn't seem to show any signs of weakening when facing Chen An's begging. Perhaps he'd already given up on this youngest son of his. Subsequently, under Duan Lingtian's astonished gaze, Chen Dong arrived before Chen An before knocking out Chen An, who revealed an expression of despair and lay limply on the ground. Crack, crack, comma. 4 successive sounds of bones shattering sounded out and caused a chill to run down everyone's spine. Chen Dong had completely shattered the limbs of Chen An with the raise of his hand. He'd struck so ruthlessly that even with a grade 1 life recovery pill, it would forever be impossible for Chen An's 4 limbs to recover. From today onward, this unfilial son of mine will stay in the Chen clan. The Chen clan will allow him to lay peacefully on the bed and live through his entire life, and it won't allow him to go out and cause trouble. Chen Dong's cold and indifferent voice sounded out, and it fully displayed his resolution. As the saying goes, even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. Chen Dong had no way to back down now, so he had to make a decision. Otherwise, he didn't know what trouble his younger son would cause in the future. The elders of the Chen clan sighed, yet none of them felt Chen An was pitiable. As far as they were concerned, this was perhaps the best end for Chen An. Big brother Duan, let's go home. Yi Zan's beautiful face went pale from terror since long ago when the sounds of bones shattering sounded out, and she couldn't help but close her eyes and not dare look at it. All right. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly as he nodded, and then he held Yi Zan's hand before bidding farewell to Chen Dong and Kei Zheng. Patriarch Chen, Elder Kei. Since this matter is resolved, I'll be returning first. As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Lingtian soared up into the sky with Yi Zan, and he flashed out of the Chen clan audience hall with Yi Ting. Brother Duan. Chen Dong was instantly anxious when he saw Duan Lingtian wanted to leave, as he'd boasted before Kei Zheng earlier that he would introduce Duan Lingtian to Kei Zheng. Patriarch Chen, is there something you need? Duan Lingtian stopped in midair and asked with a perplexed expression. It isn't I that needs something but Elder K. I wonder if Brother Duan is interested. Chen Dong looked at Duan Lingtian and wanted to ask Duan Lingtian if he was interested in joining the Five-Element sect, yet he wasn't able to finish speaking when he was interrupted by Duan Lingtian. Patriarch Chen wants to ask me if I'm interested in joining the Five-Element sect. Exactly. Chen Dong nodded, and he didn't expect that Duan Lingtian would actually be able to guess what he thought. I can. Duan Lingtian didn't beat around the bush and nodded, and then he looked at K Jung, who revealed an excited expression upon hearing what he said and smiled lightly. Of course, the precondition is that Elder K is satisfied. I'm satisfied, I'm satisfied. K Jung hurriedly nodded as a smile bloomed on his face, and he didn't have the slightest bearing of an expert at the void transformation stage. Big Brother Duan, you're going to the Five-Element sect. Yi Zan's pretty face went slightly pale as she bit on her lips, and her beautiful eyes held tears and were filled with unwillingness. Little Zan, if you're willing, then follow me to the Five-Element sect. I think that Elder K will probably not refuse, right? Duan Lingtian glanced deeply at K Jung as he asked. Of course not. K Jung spoke out hastily. After he approved of Duan Lingtian's character, he was filled with interest towards this young man with monstrous natural talent, and he wished for nothing more than to bring the young man back to the Five-Element sect in the Wood Peak. Even though Duan Lingtian's current request was going slightly too far, that was only towards ordinary people, and a monstrous martial artist like Duan Lingtian naturally obtained a different treatment. I can go to the Five-Element sect. Yi Zan couldn't help but be stunned when she heard Duan Lingtian, and after she heard K Jung's reply, at the same time that her beautiful face was dumbstruck, it revealed an expression of disbelief. Elder K, can my daughter really join the Five-Element sect? Yi Ting was similarly stunned when he heard K Jen, and he fiercely gulped down a mouthful of saliva before asking with disbelief. 857 Chapter 858, Before Departure. Of course. K Jung nodded and smiled confidently. I have that much authority. Thank you Elder K, thank you Elder K. After he obtained Elder K's confirmation, Yi Ting instantly had an excited expression. Even though he was the patriarch of the Yi clan in Drift Cloud Town, yet he still maintained a respectful manner when facing a colossus like the Five-Element sect. The Yi clan had been passed down for a few hundreds of years, yet never had a single disciple of the Yi clan possessed a natural talent to join the Five-Element sect, and this had always been a regret of the Yi clan. Now, when he found out that his daughter could join the Five-Element sect, even though she had obtained Duan Lingtian's help to join the sect, he still couldn't help but feel extreme excitement. Since it's like this, then I hope Elder K can allow us a few days to prepare. How about we leave after a few days? Duan Lingtian looked at K Jung and had the intention of asking his opinion. No problem, no problem. Presently, K Jung was completely immersed in the happiness of Duan Lingtian agreeing to join the Five-Element sect, and he would naturally agree to any request a monstrous genius like Duan Lingtian had. Elder K, didn't you say that you wanted to leave at dawn tomorrow? Chen Dong, who instructed the elders of the Chen clan to take Chen and away, just happened to hear K Jung, and he couldn't help but be stunned. Earlier, K Jung had said that he wanted to leave tomorrow, and he intended to persuade K Jung to stay. But K Jung had a resolute expression, and it caused him to be rather helpless. Now, cough, cough, K Jung laughed embarrassedly when he heard Chen Dong. A special circumstance, Patriarch Chen, since it's like this, then I'll disturb you for a few more days. It's an honor of my Chen clans, said Chen Dong hurriedly. He was naturally able to discern that Elder K had suddenly decided to stay a few more days for the sake of Duan Lingtian, and this was sufficient to show how highly he regarded Duan Lingtian. Thank you Elder K. Duan Lingtian thanked K Jung before bidding his farewells to Chen Dong, and then he brought Yi Zan and Yi Ting, who was still immersed in excitement, to flash out of the Chen clan's audience hall. Duan Lingtian, you prepare slowly, you just have to finish preparing and leave with me within half a month of time. When he saw Duan Lingtian had left the Chen clan audience hall, K Jung, who stood within the audience hall, added with a loud voice. It caused all the higher-ups of the Chen clan, including Chen Dong, to be speechless. Sure enough, different people obtained different treatment. Duan Lingtian's group of 3 quickly returned to the Yi clan estate, and Yi Ting naturally couldn't avoid thanking Duan Lingtian for the matter from before. Brother Duan, thank you, truly. If it wasn't for you, little Zan would probably be unable to step into the entrance of the five-element sect for her entire lifetime, said Yi Ting. Patriarch Yi, you've spoken too seriously. Duan Lingtian shook his head, and then he glanced at Yi Zan, who followed by his side, and said, little Zan's natural talent isn't bad. I actually spoke out to ask Elder K to accept her into the five-element sect because I didn't want a bright pearl to be covered in dust. The beautiful face of Yi Zan, who stood nearby, went slightly rosy, and her pair of pretty eyes contained excitement that was difficult to restrain. Up until now, she still felt that she was dreaming. Joining the five-element sect. This was undoubtedly a dream of hers since she was young that was far beyond her reach. Now, this dream had been truly realized. Brother Duan, I know what natural talent my daughter possesses. With her natural talent, the five-element sect would surely not take a fancy to her. All of this is your contribution. Yi Ting shook his head when he heard Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly. Could it be that this patriarch Yi thinks his daughter's natural talent is still the same as before? After all, he'd pondered carefully before wanting to make Yi Zan join the five-element sect. He'd joined the five-element sect mostly for the sake of smoothly meeting and joining up with his friends through the five-element sect, and he didn't really want to join the five-element sect to commit himself to it. So, under these circumstances, Duan Lingtian felt guilty in his heart, guilty to the five-element sect. He asked Yi Zan to join the five-element sect with him mostly for the sake of compensating the five-element sect. However, he knew clearly in his heart that in the future, Yi Zan would let everyone know that it wasn't she who was unworthy of the five-element sect, but the five-element sect was unworthy of her. Of course, Duan Lingtian temporarily didn't speak of all this because he knew that few people would believe him even if he spoke of it, so it was better to let facts talk. Presently, Yi Zan needed time. So long as she had the time, her shocking natural talent would gradually reveal itself and emit extraordinary splendor. Five-element sect, this can also be considered to be an explanation of mine to you. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. In the following days, Duan Lingtian still acted as usual, either cultivating and comprehending concept, or sitting in the small courtyard and cozily drinking tea. He naturally didn't ask K Jung for time to prepare for himself. He was alone and had no relatives or acquaintances here, so he could leave at any time. He asked for these few days of time for Yi Zan. According to his knowledge, Yi Zan had never made a long trip from home in her entire lifetime, so she naturally required some time to get ready properly. In the following days, the news of Yi Zan joining the five-element sect spread throughout the Yi clan, causing the Yi clan to be covered in lanterns and decoration, and it was filled with joy as if it was celebrating the new year. During these past few days, all Yi clan disciples would frequently mention, "Our Yi clan's young miss is going to join the five-element sect," when they were outside the clan. Moreover, the outsiders gave them various flattery as well. Everyone knew clearly what Yi Zan joining the five-element sect meant. From today onward, the Yi clan would be completely different from before, and it would be like the Chen clan, possessing the five-element sect behind it. Perhaps, the five-element sect wouldn't swarm out in full strength for the Yi clan, but there was no lack of favors when people mingled together. Once the Yi clan was in trouble and the Yi clan's young miss, Yi Zan, returned to help, she would surely have some elders and disciples of the five-element sect by her side to assist her. Drift Cloud Town is changing. When one attains something, everyone by the person's side rises with the person's success, just like the Yi clan now. All the streets and alleys of Drift Cloud Town were completely bustling and in an uproar because of the news of the Yi clan's young miss joining the five-element sect. 5 days later, Duan Lingtian stood silently and without moving like a mountain before the entrance to the Yi clan estate, and he seemed like a statue. His gaze had descended towards a nearby group of people. A beautiful young woman was bidding her farewells to the group of Yi clan higher-ups that were led by the patriarch, Yi Ting. So long as they were Yi clan disciple in the Yi clan estate, all of them had come out to send her off. Half an hour later, the young woman turned around to arrive by Duan Lingtian's side. "Brother Duan, I'll trouble you to take care of little Zan in the future." Yi Ting looked at Duan Lingtian and instructed with a serious expression. His daughter was his everything, and he was extremely unwilling in his heart, as it was her first time leaving home for a long time. "Don't worry, Patriarch Yi, I will." Duan Lingtian nodded solemnly, and then he held Yi Zan's hand and lightly smiled. "Little Zan, let's go." "Okay." Yi Zan was brought up into the sky by Duan Lingtian before flying towards the Chen clan, but she couldn't help but keep turning around to wave her hand and bid farewell towards everyone from the Yi clan. She only turned around with a slight sense of loss when the figures of everyone from the Yi clan vanished before her eyes, and she muttered. Big brother Duan, when do you think I can return to see my father? Silly girl, Duan Lingtian smiled tenderly. So long as you're willing, you can return at any time, I'll notify Elder K about this. Duan Lingtian believed that K Jung would surely not refuse a small matter like this. Big brother Duan, don't tell Elder K this first. Otherwise, he will think that I'm relying on you to do things. Yi Zan spat out her tongue playfully. I still hope to rely on myself to obtain the respect of Elder K and the other disciples of the Five-Element sect. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded. You have ambition, also as you said. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian and Yi Zan arrived at the Chen clan estate, and he naturally obtained the warm entertainment of the Chen clan's patriarch, Chen Dong. In the Chen clan audience hall, Duan Lingtian saw K Jung once again. K Jung looked to be glowing with health today, and he seemed to be slightly younger. Duan Lingtian's eyes couldn't help but light up and ask with slight surprise. Elder K, could it be that you broke through during the past few days? Duan Lingtian, you really have a good discerning ability. K Jung nodded with a smile. My cultivation during these past few days was especially smooth, and I finally charged through the bottleneck I haven't been able to break through for many years. Many years ago, K Jung's cultivation had fallen into the bottleneck that led to the 7th level of the void transformation stage, yet he was unable to break through as if he'd fallen into a devilish barrier. During these past few days, because he'd encountered Duan Lingtian and Duan Lingtian had agreed to return to the Five-Element sect with him to join the Wood Peak, his mood was excellent. Unexpectedly, his cultivation broke through in one go without even trying. Now that I speak of it, I have to thank you in this matter. K Jung smiled. Thank me. Duan Lingtian was stunned. It was precisely because you agreed to follow us back to the Five-Element sect that Master was able to break through under his excellent mood. A person walked in from outside, and his calm voice entered the audience hall. Duan Lingtian looked over and noticed that the person who came in was precisely the eldest young master of the Chen clan, Chen Wei. After a few days, Chen Wei had already recovered to the point he seemed as if nothing had happened to him. Eldest young master Chen, Duan Lingtian nodded to Chen Wei. After he understood the sequence of events of the previous matter, he didn't hold a grudge towards Chen Wei in his heart. Chen Wei was kept in the dark during the entire matter and was used by his younger brother, Chen En, so everything he did wasn't wrong. Duan Lingtian, I hope you can forgive me for offending you a few days ago. After he entered, Chen Wei bowed to Duan Lingtian in apology, and his tone was filled with sincerity. Eldest young master Chen, you're too courteous, I've already forgotten about that matter. Duan Lingtian smiled calmly, and he had an even better impression of Chen Wei. As expected of a figure that the people of Drift Cloud Town frequently held their thumbs up in approval to, he deserves his reputation. We're disciples of the same sect in the future, so don't call me eldest young master in the future. Just call me Chen Wei, said Chen Wei with a smile, and then he looked at Yi Zan who was by Duan Lingtian's side. You ought to be the Yi clan's young miss, right? Young Miss Yi, I'm sorry for causing offense and disturbing your Yi clan a few days ago. As for that younger brother of mine, even I never imagined that he'd actually done so many things that caused widespread indignation and discontent in these past few years. As he finished speaking, a trace of sorrow flashed past Chen Wei's eyes. 858 Chapter 859, Bandits. Let's not mention things that have passed. K Jung shook his head and then said, since everyone has gathered, then we should leave. Elder K, why don't all of you have lunch before leaving? Chen Dong persuaded them to stay. There's no need, Patriarch Chen, thank you for entertaining me during these past few days. K Jung nodded to Chen Dong before calling out to Duan Lingtian's group of 3 and heading out. Patriarch Chen, farewell. Duan Lingtian brought Yi Zan along as he bid his farewell to Chen Dong and left. Chen Wei hurriedly followed after them. Their group of 4 soared up into the sky from the Chen clan estate and headed west. On the way, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but ask curiously. Elder K, are we returning to the Five-Element sect or going somewhere else? We're going to Settlement City first. Our Wood Peak has a point of operations there, the 2 people that were recruited not long ago are there as well, said K Jung. Okay, Duan Lingtian nodded. Elder K, can you tell me about the situation in the Five-Element sect? Duan Lingtian asked. K Jung nodded and introduced. Our five-element sect is divided into the gold, wood, fire, water, and earth peaks. Besides the gold peak, which is the main peak that the sect master resides in, the other 4 peaks have an equal status and are managed by 4 peak masters. The 4 peaks are in a state of competition, and in the last 20 years, it was our wood peak that was in a disadvantageous position. When he spoke up to hear, Ke Jung sighed heavily. In next to no time, Duan Ling Tian obtained a certain level of understanding of the wood peak from Ke Jung and Chen Wei, and he knew that it was once the most brilliant peak beneath the gold peak. However, 20 years ago, the peak master was heavily injured outside the sect. After he returned and went into closed-door cultivation, the wood peak started to fall into decline. First, the outstanding disciples of the wood peak were poached away by the other 3 peaks by way of coercion or bribery, and then the other 3 peaks intentionally joined forces to suppress the wood peak, causing the wood peak to become the peak at the bottom of the sect. Even though the older generation experts of the wood peak were still present, yet compared to the other 3 peaks, the younger generation seemed lacking. Even if a power is just a small power divided out from the same sect, yet once its younger generation is lacking, it would mean decline. Ke Jung sighed. Wouldn't it be fine to recruit some genius disciples? So long as you spend some time, you'll still be able to find some disciples with good natural talent, said Duan Ling Tian. We of course know this, and we've indeed done so, but these genius disciples haven't even stayed in the wood peak for a while before being poached away by the other 3 peaks. Ke Jung laughed bitterly. Didn't the sect master's gold peak interfere this matter? Duan Ling Tian asked with a frown. There's something you don't know, there has always been a convention passed down in our 5-element sect. The 5 peaks exist together and compete with each other. Besides the disciples of the various peaks being prohibited from killing and crippling others, and the seniors are prohibited from making a move against juniors, there are many other restrictions. The gold peak has been the deserving number 1 peak in our 5-element sect since the beginning, whereas, the other 4 peaks have always been competing with each other both openly and in secret. 20 years ago, our wood peak became the target of the joint suppression of the other 3 peaks, and this suppression caused the wood peak to be unable to catch its breath for over 20 years. When he spoke up to hear, Ke Jung sighed. Duan Ling Tian came to a sudden understanding, and he came to understand the situation of the wood peak. As expected of a power of the foreign lands. It's only a third-rate power, yet its competition is so intense, perhaps it's precisely because of this that the 5-element sect was able to develop until today. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. If it was a cozy and peaceful sect, then perhaps it could be mighty for a time, yet it was bound to decline in a few tens of years or after 100 years. It would decline for no other reason than because the younger generation of the sect didn't possess motivation and passion. No wonder Elder K seemed like a hunter than had seen prey when he saw me, so it turns out that he wants to make the wood peak rise once more through me. Duan Ling Tian laughed bitterly. Even though thinking like this was slightly conceited, yet Ke Jung obviously possessed an intention like this. The competition between the peaks of the 5-element sect was mainly between the younger generation, whereas the experts of the older generation rarely made a move, nor was it convenient for them to do so. Perhaps the strength of the younger generation was far inferior to the older generation now, yet they were the future pillars of support of the sect, and they were the foundation for the sect to continue prospering. My days will probably not be peaceful once I arrive at the 5-element sect's wood peak. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Of course, he wasn't afraid and was instead slightly anticipating it. In next to no time, an afternoon of time had passed, and Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 had left far away from Drift Cloud Town to arrive in the sky above a continuous mountain range with complicated terrain. Suddenly, Duan Ling Tian, who journeyed by the side of Ke Jung and Chen Wei, couldn't help but frown and seemed to have noticed something. Watch out! Ke Jung shouted out in a low voice and warned. Instantly, Chen Wei seemed as if he was confronted with a formidable enemy, and a 7-foot-long spear with flowing lights revolving at the tip appeared out of thin air in his hand. The weapon he used was exactly the same as his father. Whoosh, 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 numerous swift figures arrived around Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 in the blink of an eye, and they surrounded Duan Ling Tian's group. This was a group of middle-aged men in linen clothes who was cold and indifferent expressions, and the gazes they shot at Duan Ling Tian's group of 4 seemed as if they were looking at dead people. Bandits. Duan Ling Tian's brows rose, and he guessed the identities of these people in the first possible moment. Before he left for the foreign lands, he'd found out from the memories of the rebirth martial emperor that bandits frequently roam some remote places in the foreign lands. These bandits only had a single objective, to kill the passing martial artists with formidable strength and to seize the wealth of these martial artists. Simply speaking, this was a group of bandits that had no regard for their lives. They lived on the edges of their blades, and they risked their lives to earn enormous wealth. Duan Lingtian had always been staying in Drift Cloud Town and had never left alone because he was worried about encountering these bandits. It was fine if he encountered bandits that were inferior to him, and he could kill them directly. If their strengths far exceeded him, then he could only become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered and wouldn't have the slightest chance of survival. Big Brother Duan. Yi Zan's face went pale when she saw them being surrounded by so many people. She was the young miss of the Yi clan who was born with a golden spoon in her mouth, so when had she seen a scene like this? Little Zan, come on Big Brother Duan's back. At the first possible moment, Duan Lingtian noticed that Yi Zan was terrified to the point her body trembled slightly, and he instantly called out to Yi Zan and asked her to get on his back. Yi Zan leaned on Duan Lingtian's back and held onto his neck, and only then did her feelings slightly stabilize. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath as his spiritual force stretched out, and he clearly detected the cultivations of all the bandits at the first possible moment. There was a total of 9 people. 1 was at the 7th level of the Void Interpretation stage. 3 were at the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage. The remaining people were at the 4th and 5th level of the Void Interpretation stage. What a formidable band of bandits! Duan Lingtian gasped in his head as he never imagined that the first group of bandits he encountered in the foreign lands would possess such terrifying strength. Duan Lingtian didn't know that this wasn't the first group of bandits he'd encountered since coming to the foreign lands. When he was devilified by the Devil Seal tablet that day and after he distanced himself from Feng Wudao and lost consciousness, he'd encountered numerous groups of bandits with strengths that weren't inferior to the group before him on the way to Drift Cloud Town. It was even to the extent that there were even some existences at the Void Transformation stage. However, without exception, all those bandits were killed by the devilified him as soon as they made an appearance. Kill. The 7th level Void Interpretation stage bandit in the lead didn't speak a single word before directly giving the order. Instantly, the other 8 bandits pounced towards Duan Lingtian's group of 4. In the sky, a vast expanse of ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared and swept towards them, and they covered more than half of the sunlight from the horizon. Those 3 are at the 4th level of the Void Interpretation stage. Ke Jung spoke out. He didn't have any intention of making a move and pointed towards 3 of the bandits as he spoke to Chen Wei. Subsequently, he looked at Duan Lingtian and asked. Besides the bandit in the lead, the strongest amongst the other 5 are at the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage, how many can you deal with? Obviously, the old man wanted to test Duan Lingtian's strength. Up until now, the old man hadn't seen Duan Lingtian fight and only knew that Duan Lingtian had once defeated the Chen clan's patriarch and supreme elder. The Chen clan's supreme elder was a martial artist at the 6th level of the Void Interpretation stage. Senior, besides the bandit in the lead, leave all the rest to me. Duan Lingtian smiled with confidence. As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes started to flicker with dim lights, and in the depths of his mind, his vast spiritual force pierced into the soul brand. 1,000 illusions. An illusory space was constructed by Duan Lingtian out of thin air, and it enveloped an area of a few tens of meters. The 9 bandits clearly appeared within the scope of Duan Lingtian's spiritual force. Besides the bandit in the lead that was at the 7th level of the Void Interpretation stage, he was able to affect the other bandits with his soul skill, causing them to fall into the illusory space. When Duan Lingtian executed his soul skill, 1,000 illusions, Ke Jung and Chen Wei were both shocked by what Duan Lingtian said. Ke Jung couldn't help but frown as he felt Duan Lingtian was too conceited. Alas, have I misjudged in the end? Ke Jung sighed in his head as the origin energy in his body started to roil, and he was prepared to make a move against the group of bandits at any moment. Obviously, he didn't believe Duan Lingtian's boast. But in next to no time, he was stunned. Chen Wei was stunned as well. Yi Zan, who lay on Duan Lingtian's back and tightly held onto Duan Lingtian's neck, was terrified to the point she couldn't help but close her eyes. But when she opened her eyes curiously to look ahead, she saw an unforgettable scene. Swoosh, 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 the 8 bandits that charged over abruptly stopped in midair, and they revealed dazed expressions as if they'd suddenly lost their target. Subsequently, all of them went berserk and started attacking their former companions, and their surging strength that seemed ready to come out at any moment was vented completely. Bang, 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 comma. Terrifying strength tore through the sky and gave rise to a wave of ear-piercing sounds of air exploding, and the 3 6th-level Void Interpretation Stage bandits had joined forces to kill the other 5 of their companions. What are all of you doing? The bandit leader that wasn't affected by Duan Lingtian's soul skill was stunned for a short moment when he saw this scene, and then his face darkened as he roared with a grim voice. However, along with his roar, the 3 6th-level Void Interpretation Stage bandits looked at him in unison and revealed killing intent on their faces. 859 Chapter 860, Demon Revelation Mirror. What, all of you are thinking of going against me? The bandit leader at the 7th level of the Void Interpretation Stage had a gloomy expression as he looked at the 3 subordinates before him. These 3 subordinates didn't even dare make a noise before him in the past, let alone arouse killing intent towards him. Kill! The 3 6th-level Void Interpretation Stage bandits shouted out explosively as they directly made a move against the bandit leader, and they struck out with their full strength as soon as they made a move and struck straight towards the bandit leader's vital points without showing the slightest mercy. Have all of you gone mad? The bandit leader shouted out furiously, yet didn't launch an attack, and he only avoided the attacks of the 3 bandits while shouting out explosively at the same time. However, the 3 bandits seemed as if they'd utterly not heard him, and they continued launching attacks at him. In the end, the bandit leader realized that something was off. But the successive attacks of these 3 bandits caused him to be unable to divert his attention to think about it, so he could only attack with rage and launch an attack that covered the heavens and the earth to envelop the 3 bandits. The strength of a 7th-level Void Interpretation Stage martial artist was revealed completely. When compared to the 6th level of the Void Interpretation Stage, there was like a distance of a chasm with the strength of the 7th level of the Void Interpretation Stage, and it was a completely new leap in strength. Unless a 6th level Void Interpretation Stage martial artist had a special ability, otherwise, the martial artist would be completely helpless before a 7th level Void Interpretation Stage martial artist. In the time of 10 breaths, the bandit leader had killed all 3 of his subordinates with rage. After he killed them, he returned to his senses, and his gaze descended onto Kei Jung as he asked with a low voice. What did you do to them? Kei Jung had just recovered from his shock when he heard the words of the bandit leader, and he was slightly speechless for some time. What had he done? From the beginning until the end, he seemed to have been only standing at the side and watching the show, right? In next to no time, the bandit leader took a deep breath, and he who'd calmed down his feelings felt his scalp go slightly numb when he recalled the scene from before. HMPH, I'll spare all of you today. After he grunted coldly, the bandit leader maintained a posture that caused him to not lose to others in bearing as he flashed out to transform into a bolt of lightning, and he intended to leave this place. He'd noticed an aura of danger on the 4 people. Since you've come, then don't leave. An aged voice seemed to sound out from all directions. Subsequently, a figure appeared out of thin air in the way of the bandit leader. It was Kei Jung. The bandit leader's expression instantly went pale when he saw a figure appear like a ghost before him, and even he was unable to catch this figure, and he said in panic, You're an expert at the Void Transformation Stage. Kei Jung didn't answer the bandit leader, and he looked at the bandit leader with a calm expression and a gaze that didn't contain any emotion. Senior, spare me. Senior, spare me. Under the astounded gazes of Duan Lingtian, Yi Zan, and Chen Wei, the bandit leader, a dignified martial artist at the 7th level of the Void Interpretation Stage, actually knelt before Kei Jung and ceaselessly begged for mercy. A qualified martial artist ought to be of unyielding and firm character and unafraid of death. A cowardly person that's afraid of death like you isn't worthy to be a martial artist. Kei Jung's face went cold. With a raise of his hand, vast flames swept out to envelop the bandit leader's body and instantly burned him into ash. From the beginning until the end, the bandit leader didn't even have the chance to let out a shrill cry. How formidable! Yi Zan, who lay on Duan Lingtian's back, spoke with a dumbstruck expression. 7th level of the Void Transformation Stage. Even though the old man held back when he attacked, Duan Lingtian was still able to notice an inkling from his origin energy that was fused with advanced fire concept. After all, he'd fused with the lifetime worth of memories of the rebirth martial emperor. Even though he was temporarily unable to use his spiritual force to detect the old man's cultivation, yet he was still capable of noticing some things with his eyes. With Elder K's strength, his status in the Wood Peak is probably not low. Duan Lingtian guessed in his heart. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as a figure appeared before him, and it was precisely K. Jung who'd killed the bandit leader before coming to stare at him with a burning gaze. Elder K. Duan Lingtian felt uneasy and slightly embarrassed when being stared like this by K. Jung. You used an ability similar to an illusory realm when dealing with those 8 bandits earlier. Finally, K. Jung spoke out and asked with slight surprise. It isn't similar, what I executed earlier was an illusory realm ability. Duan Lingtian spoke truthfully. I didn't sense any aura or fluctuation of inscriptions or inscription formations. In other words, you used your own spiritual force to execute an ability similar to a soul skill and constructed an illusory realm. K. Jung's breathing became slightly hurried. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded, and he couldn't deny this. You wouldn't be a demon, right? K. Jung sized up Duan Lingtian from top to bottom as he asked with a doubtful expression. Duan Lingtian was instantly speechless when he heard this. This won't do, I have to verify it. K. Jung spoke abruptly. How? Duan Lingtian was stunned. You'll know soon enough. K. Jung glanced at Duan Lingtian with ill intent as he took out an ancient copper mirror that flowed with strands of faint flowing lights. Demon Revelation Mirror. Duan Lingtian was completely speechless when he saw the thing in K. Jung's hand. Senior, is there a need for this? A Demon Revelation Mirror wasn't anything rare in Cloud Continent. Any grade 3 weapons craftsman or above was capable of refining it so long as they possessed the materials. The Demon Revelation Mirror wasn't a spirit weapon and only had a single function, and it was to verify as a person was a demon that had taken human form. So long as it was a person who was a demon that took human form, once they were reflected on the surface of this mirror, it wouldn't show their human appearance but their real appearance instead. Let me see if you're a demon that has taken human form or not, little freak. K. Jung held up the Demon Revelation Mirror and aimed it at Duan Lingtian before looking towards the surface of the mirror. He couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw it was still Duan Lingtian that appeared on the surface of the mirror. Now, he could be completely certain that Duan Lingtian was a pure human and not a demon. You're not a demon, so how could you possibly execute a spiritual force ability similar to a soul skill? Even though he'd confirmed Duan Lingtian wasn't a demon, K. Jung still couldn't help but ask curiously. According to his knowledge, unless a human martial artist was at the martial emperor stage, otherwise, it would be utterly impossible to utilize spiritual force against one's enemies, yet Duan Lingtian had gone against this convention. Senior, you wouldn't have not heard of variants, right? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed as he intentionally led K. Jung astray. Variant. K. Jung was completely petrified when he heard Duan Lingtian. As an elder of the 5-element sect, how could he not know of the existence of variants? Variants were lives given birth to by the union of man and demon. They were either mediocre or possessed extraordinary natural talent, and the latter even possessed unique innate abilities. However, variants could be considered to be rare in the entire Cloud Continent, and only some top first-rate powers had variants existing in their sects. The 5-element sect could be considered to be an overlord in the eastern area of the northern desert, but it was only a third-rate sect in the entire Cloud Continent and it wasn't worth mentioning. So he'd utterly not thought of Duan Lingtian as a variant at the beginning because he didn't dare think in that way. K. Jung looked at Duan Lingtian and was slightly unable to speak clearly, and his heart was filled with indescribable excitement. A variant. I've actually encountered a variant of legend. Moreover, this variant is about to join my 5-element sect and become a disciple of my Wood Peak. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, under Duan Lingtian, Yi Zan, and Chen Wei's dumbstruck gazes, K. Jung roared with laughter into the sky without the slightest reason, and his laughter sounded out far and wide. Duan Lingtian was able to hear happiness from K. Jung's laughter, and he naturally guessed why K. Jung would be so happy. Finally, K. Jung restrained his laughter. Now K. Jung had no doubts in his heart towards the ability Duan Lingtian had executed earlier. Innate ability. Big brother Duan, what's a variant? Why is Elder K so excited after hearing about it? Yi Zan lay on Duan Lingtian's back and asked curiously. A variant is a type of unusual existence, you can understand them as existence that can't be described with convention. Duan Lingtian explained with a smile. Yi Zan nodded without fully understanding what Duan Lingtian said. Let's go. After the wave of loud laughter earlier, K. Jung seemed to have completely wiped away the unhappiness he felt previously, and he seemed to be radiating joy. Duan Lingtian, thank you. Suddenly, Chen Wei arrived by Duan Lingtian's side and thanked Duan Lingtian from the bottom of his heart. What are you thanking me for? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Thank you for making Master be so happy. Chen Wei sighed. Since the day I became Master's disciple, he placed great hopes on me because of the situation of the Wood Peak at that time, even though he didn't say anything up until now, yet I know he's disappointed. Chen Wei, there's something I don't understand. Duan Lingtian frowned. Chen Wei looked at Duan Lingtian with a perplexed expression and asked. What? I keep having the feeling that Elder K seems to have an extremely unusual feeling towards the Wood Peak. His concern towards the Wood Peak is completely unlike the concern a Wood Peak elder ought to have. Duan Lingtian said with a low voice, if it was another person, then perhaps the person would think that Elder K is the Peak Master of Wood Peak and not an elder. You noticed? Chen Wei was slightly surprised when he heard Duan Lingtian, and then he said, actually, it isn't a secret, Master is the foster son the Wood Peak's last Peak Master took in, and he'd grown up in the Wood Peak, causing him to completely take the Wood Peak as his home. To him, the Wood Peak's decline is similar to the decline of his home. Chen Wei laughed bitterly. So that's how it is. Duan Lingtian came to a sudden understanding. Never had he imagined that Elder K would have such a relationship with the Wood Peak, and since it was like this, everything seemed to fall into place. At dusk, Duan Lingtian saw a city situated on the plains below, and it was like a colossus in a green and picturesque illusory realm. That's Settlement City, said Chen Wei. Duan Lingtian nodded, and then he looked straight at the city ahead. Even though the Settlement City was inferior to the ancient Desert City, yet it wasn't smaller than the capitals of the Darken Dynasty and Darming Dynasty. Duan Lingtian's group of 3 followed K Jung to enter the city, and they quickly walked into a vast estate. Elder K. Everywhere Elder K passed, the people that were bustling about all around the estate would bow respectfully towards him.